What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
6 Shish. The 121st chapter is open. The bombing is endless. The first EVA machine is coming. The pinnacle of biotechnology. On the ground, the devices of steel machinery continued to unfold. A series of cold and ferocious muzzles were erected. The black iron-like mechanical ring was formed out of thin air, and hundreds of various weapons were hung on it. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, a mechanical fortress with a height of tens of meters was so abruptly realized. The huge mechanical fortress floated in the air, and the color of black iron was enough to shake people's minds. A pair of large black iron wings is several times larger than the wings of a three-headed flying dragon. The azure blue brilliance bloomed on the mechanical fortress. That's a manifestation of a huge amount of energy being released. This is, in the audience, Usopp's mouth couldn't close. How to do it? He watched helplessly as this mechanical fortress took shape. From a piece of air where there is nothing, such a grand and hideous steel mechanical fortress has been constructed. This kind of behavior is more fantasy than the previous Strike Freedom Gundam and Genos the Transformer. This is a scene that completely violates the laws of physics. Machine Guy Frankie on the side also widened his eyes, gaining a new understanding of this race. Said to be a purely mechanical race. But in fact, the way its means are displayed is more inclined to the magic side. Whether 020 is the previous elf light particle defense, or the later Yanlong roar and other moves, there is a strong sense of magic side ability. Maybe, should call it a mechanical life. Roar. In the field, the three-headed flying dragon roared in a low voice, with a sense of weakness that could not be concealed in its voice. Obviously, the damage done to it by the blow Yanlong roared just now has caused a heavy blow to its origin. The granulation on the body surging frantically, as if it was the last struggle before death. And hubby, who was already above the fortress at this time, with conductive lines connecting the fortress and her body, her eyes were extremely firm. I want to live, so I have to do my best. Destroy you. A normal machine guy can't say such things. Because they are all program driven, there is only racial awareness, not individual awareness. That is to say, they don't care about their own demise, let alone say that they want to live, or escape. In particular, a body like Huobi that has been abandoned. Even if such an abandoned body perishes, it should not cause any waves. The only problem is that today's hubby is not an emotionless machine guy. She who has obtained a heart is a real life. Pseudocode Yanlong Roar is already the most popular style in her records. This can't eliminate the three-headed flying dragon on the opposite side, and she can only forcibly display all the weapons of the guy species. In the muzzle of the sky, there are blazing blue rays of light gathered together. A dazzling spectrogram is formed. The next moment, Huobi raised her fair arm and pressed down sharply. Destroy it. 95. Boom, boom, boom. From the hideous muzzles, powerful firepower erupted. The blue laser cannon was frantically washing the ground. There are also a large number of follow-up crimson artillery followed by smashing down. The terrifying fluctuations almost set off a violent tide of energy. In particular, the area where the three-headed flying dragon was located was directly covered by firelight and smoke and dust, and the specific situation could not be seen at all. There is constant artillery fire falling in this area. The ground collapsed uncontrollably, and eventually even a tionking with a diameter of several hundred meters was formed. Wow! The whistling sound of the three-headed flying dragon gradually weakened, and the last breath of life began to dissipate. However, hubby in the sky did not mean to stop at all. She didn't know how terrifying the opponent's vitality was. But in order to ensure the death of the other party to the greatest extent, she will pour out all the firepower until all the firepower is exhausted. It can be said to be cautious to the ultimate. And this maddening behavior is to live. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the picture in the arena fell into a stagnant state. The laser cannons and artillery flying in the sky were all solidified. The charred soil and dust flying up from the ground were also frozen. For a time, the audience fell into a strange silence. This time, they were not shocked by the powerful firepower. Instead, he was shocked by the behavior of the little guy named Lowly called hubby in the field. It's not giving up until you blow the opponent to ashes. Usopp murmured subconsciously. This kind of behavior is commonly known as throwing ashes. Generally speaking, it only happens to people who have deep hatred. Cough. Sanji coughed lightly, and threw the burnt cigarette butt in his mouth. Think about it carefully, that dragon's self-healing ability is indeed very strong, and it is normal to be cautious. 5. After all, that kind of twisted life force, how strong does the ghost know to attack it to kill it completely? That is a ruthless dragon that can grow back in a few breaths even if its head is cut off. Everyone around them nodded slightly, thinking this way, it made sense. After all, if it were them, I'm afraid they would have to worry about whether the other party would suddenly resurrect and give themselves such a mouthful. This kind of fierce beast with powerful vitality is undoubtedly an extremely difficult opponent. Not far away, Zoro held the long knife and said with some indifference, that kind of copying ability may be able to play a big role. In this sea, the most important thing is all kinds of abilities. After all, devil fruit is full of strange things, and no one knows what strange abilities it will have. Some abilities may take people's lives if they don't pay attention. And, in different places, different abilities work wonders. For example, Admiral Aokiji's freezing ability can even allow him to walk on the sea. There are places like Sky Island, if you can fly, it will also have a great advantage. Luffy on the side has a different opinion. This fortress is really cool. It's even more powerful than the previous transformation man. His eyes shone a little. Obviously, Luffy's judgment of ability is not strong or not, but cool or not. Its brain circuits cannot be followed by ordinary people. So, how does it feel? Chen turned to look at Franky. Franky was silent for a while. Although I am really interested in this ability, but, well, in a word, let's read it first. He didn't dare to say more. After all, the slap in the face was too fast, making him start to speak more cautiously now. This machine guy is the same as Geno's, and its size is no different from a normal person. If he obtains the unit configuration of Hoob, perhaps he can directly integrate it into himself. Moreover, the ability of Mechanic Guy to cultivate those armed codes also has high research value for him. If he can learn it, maybe he can also carry many large weapons that cannot be carried. When needed, it can be used again. Then, let's look at the next one. Chen snapped his fingers calmly. This is the last template for today. Population 35. With the snap of fingers, all the images in the arena were reset. The huge steel mechanical fortress in the sky began to disappear. The crisscrossing cracks on the ground were also smoothed out one by one. Everything seemed to be reversed in time, returning to the way it was at the beginning. At the same time, a new figure came out of nowhere. This is. In the auditorium, everyone's eyes widened suddenly, some of them didn't know how to evaluate it. Franky's reaction was the biggest. Is this mechanical, or biological? There was deep confusion on his face. In the field, a huge figure stood quietly. With a height of 80 meters, even the previous, Freedom Strike Gundam, can only be regarded as a small point in front of it. If you have to convert it, it is probably equivalent to a building with more than 20 floors. It has a purple mechanical paint on its exterior, and it also has a large number of mechanical equipment weapons. Strictly speaking, it should be a mecha. But the person stands up, and even the structure of the muscles can be seen in the structure of the limbs. There are even sharp teeth on the hideous head. What kind of mecha is this? It is clearly a humanoid monster. It was also because of this that everyone was stunned, and for a while they couldn't tell what it was. Evangelion-01, also known as Eva number 1. 35. Chen said aloud. An important part of the human completion plan is also the core model of Eva. 35. The so-called Eva actually refers to the ultimate universal humanoid battle weapon, a huge humanoid weapon that is a replica of the Apostle. 399. At the same time, it is also the product of the combination of biotechnology and precision electronic machinery. Strictly speaking, it's a living creature. If the first few are purely mechanized, then this one is the pinnacle of biotechnology. Its body is a living apostle. 1.3. As for the mechanical skin on its body, it was not installed as a reinforcement. 55. Chen spread his hands and said, it's not the armor used to protect itself, but the restraint used to suppress its true power and prevent it from running wild. 35. In simple terms, you can think of it as a mech that needs to be controlled by humans. But this mecha has self-awareness, and once triggered, it may cause its power to run wild. Strictly speaking, the existence of Eva requires qualified people to be qualified to drive. But what Chen wanted was not a real Eva, but only its capabilities. So he will directly liberate the apostle consciousness in the number 1 machine. Living creature. Franky was lost in thought for a while. What kind of existence is the apostle? Chen paused before saying, there is no clear definition of apostles. Take it as a monster. 99. It was an unknown organism, strictly speaking, other possible forms of human existence. 99. Franky nodded slightly. So, I see. Chapter 122 The Clone of the Second Apostle. The existence of a beast that is even more vicious than a beast. The unbridled amount of violence. In fact, in terms of setting, the so-called apostle is more like a monster life form. And the so-called 18th apostle, that is, the last apostle, actually refers to human beings. So the meaning of Eva itself refers to the humanoid decisive weapon. Of course, when speaking of apostles, only 17 are usually mentioned. In the auditorium, Chen's voice lingered. The Eva you are seeing now is called the number 1 machine. It was originally a clone of the second apostle, Lilith. 99. Speaking of this, Chen's expression became a little weird, and Lilith's identity is the ancestor of mankind. In fact, he always felt that the name of the second apostle should be called Eve. After all, the name of the first apostle is called Adam, and it is the origin of the birth of all apostles. And as the second apostle, who gave birth to all things, the name Eve can be considered to complement each other. 3. However, he chose the name Lilith. But these are not important. The important thing is that this Eva mecha made by the apostle is obviously not a normal mechanical system. It is not so much a mecha, it is better to say that it is an apostle-life body wearing a mecha skin. This design, kinda unique. Franky originally wanted to say that this design was superfluous, but thinking of the previous slap in the face, he swallowed the words that came to his mouth. After all, before seeing the strength of these existences, all predictions are false. Zoro on the side looked at the field with a slightly solemn expression. This is a very strong opponent. That kind of life breath, absolutely O2 can't be wrong. Those who appeared earlier were all machines or mechanical beings. Its strength lies in its own firepower system and equipment. In other words, the energy fluctuations will be strong, but the life breath will be very weak or even close to nothing, and their strength cannot be judged from the strength of the breath alone. The one in front of him is different, the strong aura is definitely a powerful creature. Wow, Luffy raised his head and smashed his mouth. It's so tall. 80 meters tall. Just standing there is like standing in a 20-story building. The pressure brought by this body type is enough to suffocate. Even the three-headed flying dragon is insignificant in front of it. Nami said helplessly. Although I really want to complain that there is something wrong with your focus, you are right, its size is indeed huge. The large size will bring absolute power and destructive power. It may be possible to step on a single foot and level a hill. Hush huh. Sanji lit a cigarette again and commented, I'm very disappointed with the 4 templates this time, the only thing I can watch is Miss Huffby. Boom. Before the words were finished, the others had already fallen to the ground. In this regard, everyone has been surprised. Sanji, this guy is like that. Nami retracted his fist and clapped his hands subconsciously. This punch has already developed an instinctive response. Robin, who was not far away, said gently, if it is a pure creature, wouldn't it fit Frankie too well? This question is obviously very important, or at least more serious than what the previous few people have said. The others around also turned their heads and looked over. Chen shrugged. Kaido. This is inevitable. In fact, you will find that for each of the 4 templates, I will try to pick out some different templates, just to avoid homogenization. Take a simple example. Frankie's 4 templates, he can even save trouble and directly pick out 4 different models of Gundam. The final result is actually not much different. But in that case, it doesn't make much sense at all. Because they are all homogeneous choices, choosing any one makes no difference to Frankie. Hearing this, everyone nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, like Robin's 4 templates. Although the abilities of Heaven's Gate and Magic Book Library suit her very well. But who's to say she wouldn't be tempted by the power of the Nine-Tails god Tamamo? That is the root of the magician profession, a true god with a complete divine personality and exaggerated personality. Who never imagined that he would become a god? All in all, let's take a look first, Frankie said, biotechnology is not useless to me. Because there are too many powerful creatures in this world. Those super large sea kings in the calm belt are all island destroying. You know, this is the world of pirates, and the so-called destroying the island is actually destroying the country. Even the world's evaluation of the ancient weapon, Pluton, is it can destroy an island with one shot. This shows the power of those super large sea kings. If the master masters this biotechnology, maybe he can also transform a powerful enough pseudo-mecha. When the time comes, he will even be able to become an upgraded version of the ancient weapon, Poseidon, leading the oversized sea kings whose large skirts have been transformed. Then, let's start, Chen said leisurely, and then snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the familiar snap of fingers, the paused time in the arena began to flow again. Wow, a sharp screeching sound that seemed to pierce through gold and iron resounded in the air. Huge black wings obscured the sky. The figure of the 3-headed flying dragon appeared in the sky above the arena. The wild and primitive fierce aura suddenly spread out, and the aura was extremely powerful. But this time, the shadow it cast obviously failed to shroud its prey in it. The size of the first number below is so large that even an ancient beast as ferocious as a 3-headed flying dragon has to feel a little cautious. Call. In the howling wind, 3 flying dragons hovered in the sky, as if they were thinking about how to lay their claws. In the extraordinary world, body size does not necessarily mean strength. Many strong people are actually just normal body size. However, when the size reaches a certain level, it is bound to be powerful. Because, just to support that huge body, the strength required is already very exaggerated. Therefore, even if it was as fierce as a 3-headed flying dragon, he didn't shoot directly for a while. 2 golden lights lit up from the eyes of the number 1 machine. It bowed its head slightly, raised its hand and made a fist. It seems that there are still some who are not used to this kind of independent action without the control of qualified people. Chen directly released the apostolic consciousness of his body, so it gained the ability to act alone. Roar. The next moment, a roar that was even more ferocious than the 3-headed flying dragon resounded in the arena. The sound is so loud that it seems to tear the sky apart. As if to celebrate that he had regained his freedom, the number 1 machine jumped up and stomped on the ground. The violent power is madly cathartic. Boom. 35. An extremely dull sound came out. The entire 100-meter square ground was trampled and collapsed, and cracks spread unstoppably like a broken mirror. A large amount of smoke billowed across the sky. The number 1 machine in the field began to vent his inner emotions unscrupulously. This picture looks like a beast that has escaped from its cage and regained its freedom. The ferocious and violent aura belonging to the apostle began to surge in an endless stream. This time, the coming existence is obviously 3 points more fierce than the beast arranged by Chen. Gollum. In the audience, I don't know who could not help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. This is too fierce. Usopp touched his long nose subconsciously, his lips trembling slightly. The terrifying power, coupled with the huge size with visual impact. It was a huge spiritual shock. What kind of mecha is this? Frankie took a deep breath. This is clearly a human-shaped super beast. At least, the real mechanical creation will not carry out such meaningless power consumption. However, the beast will. They will unbridledly vent their power. This is not only a symbol of their power, but also a considerable deterrent to the enemy. I remember. Zoro's eyes narrowed slightly. Isn't this its full form? Despite this, the power displayed by this behemoth is shocking enough. Roar. In the sky, as if feeling that he was being provoked, the three-headed flying dragon responded with a fierce roar. Perhaps it was stimulated, and this time its three heads opened wide mouths at the same time. An endless stream of dark energy gathered in its mouth. The concentration of energy is getting higher and higher, and the black is getting deeper and deeper. In the end, the three groups of energy almost condensed into one place. Boom. A beam of dark energy with a diameter of dozens of meters fell from the sky. Without any suspense, the #1 machine was directly shrouded in it. Terrifying tides of energy undulate on the ground. There were even waves formed by earth and rocks on the ground, like a wave of the ocean. In the air, there are cotton wool-like objects dyed with black energy floating. The billowing smoke filled the audience, obscuring the view. In the audience, everyone couldn't help but be a little stunned. It's over. The three-headed flying dragon's trick, the three who appeared in front were all directly slammed back. In particular, a certain fire machine, Genos, with a spiral burner in one hand, is very much like Ultraman's counter waves. Of course, he still won. And the Eva first machine, in front of me, which seems to be extremely fierce, was directly hit by someone's energy beam. At this time, the smoke and dust in the field gradually dissipated, and everyone finally saw the scene clearly. I saw the huge body of the #1 machine, half squatting on the ground. No, it shouldn't be called #1, now. The mechanical coating and various weapons on the body surface are scattered all over the place. What was revealed was a being named Apostle Al. In the low roar, everyone seemed to hear a hint of relief. Chapter 123. The seal is lifted. The real beast, the real body of the Apostle. The brutal battle to the mechanism is over. Pieces of mechanical armament were smashed to pieces by three flying dragons and scattered all over the place. Lu Chen's previous words echoed in everyone's mind. The mechanical skin on its body is a restraint used to restrain its true power and prevent it from running wild. Instead of protecting the body itself. In other words, the mechanical armament on the body of this #1 machine is itself a layer of seal. But now, this layer of seal was forcibly released by its opponent, the three-headed flying dragon with one breath. In the audience, after a brief silence, Usopp said with difficulty, "This time, it's really become a beast escaped from its cage." Zoro's eyes on the side are extremely solemn. This breath is too fierce. This breath alone can make most people feel fearful and wipe out all the courage to resist. It's like a frog in nature, stared at by lion majesty. He wanted to escape, but his body was stiff and hard to move. Soon, the smoke and dust completely dissipated, and the #1 machine inside finally began to reveal its true face of Mount Lu. To be precise, its apostle form. Frankie couldn't help but wipe the sweat that didn't exist on his forehead. This is too hideous. That's right, it's hideous. In the field, it was a monstrous human-shaped beast. The muscles of the Chojun are particularly conspicuous. The eyes that originally exuded golden light also lit up with scarlet blood at this time. The teeth are irregularly arranged in the mouth, and you can even see the saliva dripping from it. After taking off the outer layer of mechanical coating, this apostle finally showed its true fierce side. Roar. A deafening roar resounded. There was a burst of gas explosions in the air, and even the ground trembled slightly. The #1 machine couldn't wait to scream in the sky, as if to vent the feeling of being reborn. Wow. In the sky, the three-headed flying dragon is also not to be outdone. This time, it chose to do it directly. A pair of dark wings flapped violently, and the huge dragon body began to fly downward. Saw. The sound of breaking the air spread, and the three-headed flying dragon directly turned into a black shadow and fell towards the bottom. The #1 machine raised his head slightly, and the red light in his eyes dimmed. Crack. Its legs flexed suddenly, and then snapped back with force. Boom. 35. Stay on the ground. The huge #1 aircraft body rose directly into the sky and greeted the three-headed flying dragon. In this scene, everyone in the audience was suffocating. The few who appeared before, facing the frontal attack of the three-headed flying dragon, all summoned shields to resist. After all, the impact of such a large beast's weight is enormous, and it is not a wise move to resist hard. But obviously, in the eyes of the human-shaped beast, #1 machine, this is nothing. Boom. As if a celestial drum was beating, an extremely dull collision sounded into everyone's ears. If it weren't for the invincible protection of the auditorium, I am afraid that some people would have suffered from eardrum bleeding and fainted from the shock. Two huge figures suddenly collided in the sky, and then fell to the ground together. A super large deep pit caught everyone's eyes. Boom. Boom. 27 inches boom. Then, there was a loud B************ G sound. Smoke billows up. Vaguely, you can see that the #1 machine is holding a flying dragon, constantly smashing it to the ground. Furious, raw, ferocious, unreasonable. It was like two wild beasts fighting in the jungle. Its power is so terrifying that even the orthodox beast of the three-headed flying dragon cannot compete with it. It was treated like a rag doll, and it was dropped and smashed at will. Alas. 35. The three-headed dragons roared continuously, trying to struggle in vain. But unfortunately, this time it was considered that Li Gui collided with Li Kui, and the fierce beast collided with an even fiercer beast. All the struggle was in vain. Finally, the number 1 aircraft stood still abruptly, grabbed the wings of the three-headed flying dragon with both hands, and suddenly pulled away to the sides. Tear. Dark blood splattered all over the sky, and the ground in a radius of 100 meters was dyed black by dragon blood. As if the number 1 machine had not vented its cravings, he opened his bloody mouth and took a bite. The sharp teeth forcibly tore off a large piece of flesh and blood from the three-headed flying dragon. These flesh and blood that have been infected by the black curse energy, even if a normal person touches a little, will trigger the effect of instant death. But the number 1 machine seemed to have completely ignored the danger and bit it with a big mouth. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the scene in the arena finally fell into a pause. At the same time, the audience was quiet. After a long time, Nami was the first to react. Is it over? Robin next to him also nodded with a complicated expression. Well, it's over. Too fast. This battle is definitely the one that ends the fastest among the 4 battles. From the appearance of the number 1 machine, to when its seal was lifted, it began to show its true appearance. The whole battle has actually turned into the slaughter of one beast to another. Moreover, it is the kind of no resistance, violent to the ultimate way. Pure physical strength, primitive fighting style. This kind of battle, is it really a mechanical battle? Franky's expression was a little confused. If I had to say it, this battle was clearly a fight between 2 beasts. It has nothing to do with the battle on the mechanical and technological side. Sanji let out a breath of smoke, and became serious, but I have to say, it's really strong. Zoro also held the knife and nodded. Yes, very strong. He agrees. The apostle, named number 1 foot has a very high aura, and it is inevitable to be powerful. Then, Chen turned his head to look at Franky. How about the consideration? 4 templates, have you made a choice? Franky was silent for a moment, his face tangled. In fact, what he is mainly struggling with now is Strike Freedom Gundam and Reformer Genos. 0. As for the later appearances of the Machine Guy Hubby and Eva number 1 machine, he has been excluded. If you want to say why, it's still a matter of compatibility. The latter 2 are not really strong. But the compatibility with Franky himself is still much worse. Especially the Eva First Unit. Although it is extremely powerful, the system it involves is no longer the field that Franky is good at. It can even be said that Franky's interest in biotechnology is lacking. In contrast, he really prefers to study pure machinery. I've decided. Franky's eyes gradually firmed. I choose Strike Freedom Gundam. 35. Although Remodeler Genos has the highest affinity for him. Moreover, those 6 cores are also very interesting. But what he was most interested in was the weapons on Gundam. In particular, he doesn't really need to consider the issue of the energy core. After all, as Chen said, besides Franky, who else can rely on something like Koka's energy? Moreover, there are indeed many things in Gundam that are worthy of his research. Like the 2 laser swords. Or Super Sasori Tiger Beam Saber, he is very interested. Very good, Chen nodded. Since you have made a choice, let's end this time. 9. Saying that, he snapped his fingers again. Pop one by one. The entire arena space shattered like a mirror. Everyone just felt the world spinning, and then the eyes turned dark, and their consciousness returned to the deck of the Sunshine Miles. And Chen began to shout from the bottom of his heart. System, customize, train Franky, and get the weapon system of the Strike Freedom Gundam. Strike Freedom Gundam has 2 cores. One of them is the ultra-advanced deuteron as an energy source. The second is the Glory Transmitter propulsion system. The difficulty of obtaining these 2 is naturally extremely high, and Franky, who has coke as an energy source, does not actually have a large demand for super-advanced deuterons. In contrast, its weapon system is much easier to obtain. The next moment, a cold system mechanical sound rang in my mind. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Transformer Franky. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. To obtain the weapon system of the Strike Freedom Gundam. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Complete a large-scale transformation of the Sunshine Miles, requiring its sturdiness, performance, and firepower are doubled. Close black lens bracket. Crash. The sound of the waves rushed into my ears, and the sun was shining brightly. On the deck, everyone opened their eyes as if they had just woken up from a dream. Who back? On the horizon, a group of seabirds continued to spread their wings. The time in fantasy is extremely short for reality. Beside the ship, Chen also opened his eyes. By the way, what is Franky's training plan? Usopp suddenly came over curiously. Good Zhao. Chen glanced at him and said lightly, it's actually very simple. Everyone's eyes shifted. I saw Chen said, it's enough to transform the Sunshine Miles to double its performance, firepower, and robustness. 9. Franky was stunned for a moment. Wait. This is my pinnacle of using the treasure tree atom as the keel, how can I improve it? 99. No, apart from the keel, there are still many things that can be improved. Chen glanced at the deck and the hull, and reminded, a ship can't always rely on one keel, right? You know, whether it's Going Merry, or Sunshine Miles. In fact, they are all wooden boats. In terms of firmness, the room for improvement is not small. As for firepower, it is necessary to find a way to increase the amount of ammunition and the caliber of the artillery. And performance is the same. A two-masted ship, in the final analysis, is driven by wind. The boat itself is not powered. If you can install an engine, it will naturally be very different. Moreover, Frankie's engine doesn't have to consider energy issues. After all, he himself uses coke as energy. Hi, Frankie rubbed his chin. What you said makes sense. Superior. Chapter 124 The Last Crew. Musician, Brook, 7 Warlords of the Sea. Sunshine Miles, on deck. At this time, everyone was still immersed in the joy of the new ship, unable to extricate themselves. Especially the aquarium, it was played with flowers. Luffy and Usopp sat on the edge of the deck fishing, and after they caught them, they threw the fish into the aquarium. Until they caught a shark and ate all the fish in the aquarium. Luffy. Suddenly, Chen on the side of the boat called out to the two who were fishing. Huh, Luffy turned his head. What's wrong? Chen smiled and said, remember, what kind of partner are you missing? Luffy froze for a moment, then lowered his head and snapped his fingers. Well, trainer, swordsman, navigator, sniper, cook, pet, well, ship doctor, archaeology scientists, boatman. After a long time, he finally grinned. Hey, I'm still one musician away. The opposite Chen also nodded and said, yes, there is still one musician left, and your pirate group has already taken shape. With all the musicians and the co-owner Wei Wei who left the team before, Luffy's 10 partners are complete. As for the helmsman, this will not happen until Jinbei is on board in the later stage. Usually everyone takes turns at the helm. In that sea area ahead, there is your last crew member. 55. Chen's voice came leisurely. Ah, Luffy's eyes widened, and he quickly stood up from the deck and looked into the distance. Really? Of course, Chen nodded affirmatively. That's a musician who was hard to describe. Front. The sky was filled with dark clouds, and a cold wind was blowing over the sea. Moreover, it is also accompanied by thick fog, which makes it difficult to see the distant scene. It can be said that it is a sea area with an extremely depressing atmosphere. Usopp, who was still fishing, also quickly got up. Where is this? The sea with this atmosphere is not a good place at first glance. Soon, everyone came to the deck. Nami looked at the chart in his hand, and his eyes gradually became solemn. Have we come to that sea area? I'm not ready yet. What? Usopp looked surprised. Have we arrived at the Fishman Island? Their record pointer points to the Fishman Island. No, Nami shrugged. Before reaching the Fishman Island, we will pass through a haunted sea. Haunted. Usopp's tongue seemed to be in a knot, and he couldn't speak. Chopper on the side had already hugged Chen's thigh, his face full of horror. That's right, Frankie said, it's the one that says anything goes into it and disappears, the Devil's Triangle. Sanji also lit a cigarette. I heard that hundreds of ships go missing here every year, and there are moving skeletons cruising in this sea area. Don't say any more. Usopp and Chopper are already turning off themselves. Soon, the ship sailed into the dark sea ahead. Everyone's expressions became serious. After all, ghosts know what strange things can exist in a place like this. The light had dimmed, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and there was no sunlight. The sea was full of fog, and the distance could not be seen. Suddenly, a large shadow appeared in the field of vision ahead. What is that? Usopp's teeth chattered. Is it a CBD, ghost ship? Chen on the side suddenly said, that's right. Usopp was startled. Don't talk suddenly. Wait, Usopp's eyes widened. You said, right. 35 feet. A smile appeared on the corner of Chen's mouth. Yes, it's the ghost ship. On that side, as the huge shadow approached, everyone finally saw its true face. It was a broken ship. It's full of Madara's remnants of the years, and the trauma of the battle. Moreover, there were no lights on the ship, and the flag was in a state of dilapidation, so it didn't look like there were any living people. Really a ghost ship. Usopp swallowed hard, his eyes starting to straighten. Sudden, a burst of singing came from the big ship. What? This time, not only Usopp and Chopper, but everyone's eyes widened. Zoro couldn't even help unsheathing the long knife around his waist, his eyes were sharp. No matter what it is, if something is wrong, cut it first. 5. On the other hand, the two of Usopp had already shrunk behind the crowd. Obviously, different people approach problems differently. Soon, the big ship and Thousand Sunny slowly staggered past. Everyone saw that on the edge of the deck of the big ship, a black shadow was standing quietly. That's a skeleton. To be precise, it was a skeleton man with an exploding head. At this point, the two sides looked at each other. In the mouth of the skeleton, there was even a song. Binks Wine, this is for you. Obviously, the singing they heard just now was emitted by this skeleton. For a moment, everyone subconsciously held their breath and was shocked by this scene. Did you hear that? Nami said with some difficulty. I heard, Zoro said solemnly, it's the skeleton. 39. Usopp and Chopper were already froze and stood motionless. The mental impact of this scene is definitely not small. To sum up, it is 3 words. Hell. This is so damn good. A skeleton stand, even with a coffee mug in hand, is singing on a ghost ship. Anyone who sees this scene will be horrified, right? Just when everyone was thinking about this, Luffy, who was beside him, rushed to the fence with a look of excitement. It's amazing. A skeleton that can sing. He also shouted, I'm going to see. Obviously, this one was not afraid at all, showing his unique brain circuit. You guy. The people behind all had black lines on their faces. After a while, after drawing lots, Luffy, Nami and Chen were responsible for boarding the big ship opposite to check the situation. Until the 3 stood on the deck of the big ship. Opposite, a skeleton man in a formal dress has been standing there waiting for a long time. Guian, the skeleton man supported the top hat on his head. Yo hee hee hee, I was really rude just now. I met but didn't say hello. His speech was very fast, and he looked like a talker, but it really shocked me. I don't know how many years ago, I saw a living person again. This movie is a ghost ship and a ghost ship, it's really scary. Come on, he stretched out his hand. Come inside, let's sit down and have a good chat. Suddenly, he saw Nami among the 3 at a glance, and hurriedly stepped forward. Oh, it's so rude, there is still such a beautiful lady. 99. Nami smiled stiffly. Where is it? The skeleton man said honestly. I am confused when I see beautiful women, even though I am a skeleton and have no eyes. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, he solemnly put down the coffee cup and crutches in his hand. Then he sorted out his bow tie and top hat, wiped the leather shoes on his feet, and walked to Nami. Then, in a serious and low tone, he asked, can you let me take a look at Fat Times? Boom. Nami has already punched out subconsciously, directly smashing the skeleton to the ground. After the fight, she skillfully retracted her fist. Really, 1 or 2 of these guys, why are they all like this? 39. Luffy, Chen suddenly said. Luffy turned his head suspiciously. That's what I told you, that musician. Chen smiled and pointed to the skeleton man on the ground. As you said, the skeleton man suddenly got up from the ground. Yes, I am indeed a musician. Quote. Luffy looked dazed, and he quickly forgot about it. Although he didn't know how Chen got to a skeleton musician here. But that didn't stop him, he was interested in this skeleton rack that could talk, sing, and drink coffee. So, how about being our companion? Chen asked with a smile. Of course, it's an honor to be here. Maybe it's because the skeleton people have wandered in this dark sea for too long without encountering a living person. So his answer was extremely succinct. This should be regarded as the least sloppy time for their pirate group to recruit partners, and they agreed to board the ship as soon as they met. After half a sound, skeletons have appeared in Thousand Sunny's cabin. Hello everyone, he straightened the top hat on his head. Below is Brook, who has been resurrected as a skeleton. Really skeletons. Chopper and Usopp have already hung crosses on their bodies. Don't come here. 35. Brook, Chen suddenly said, where's your shadow? Shadow. Brook glanced at his feet and fell silent. Yeah, where's your shadow? Chopper seemed to have found a blind spot, and pointed his finger behind Brook, and there's no shadow of you in the mirror. Behind Brook, there is a length mirror. Everyone's figures appeared in the mirror, but the area where Brook stood was blank. Is it taken by that guy? Chen asked calmly. You know. Brook suddenly raised his head. Well, Chen nodded and said, the Devil's Triangle Sea has always been entrenched in a huge force, that is, Moonlight, Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. That guy's ability is to manipulate shadows. A person whose shadow has been taken away will turn to ashes when exposed to the sun. Everyone's eyes widened. 7 warlords of the sea, take away the shadow. After being silent for a long time, Brook also said, yes, I can't walk under the sun, so I promised to be your partner before, and I may have to break my promise. Because I can't leave this sea. Only in this dark cloud-shrouded sea area can he survive normally. Chapter 125. The strength of Luffy's group grows. Strength test. Declare war on Shichibukai. These are just little things. Chen said calmly. Just as we passed by here, let's help you get the shadow back. Brook raised his head in disbelief. 99. That's Shichibukai. Few of the pirates in this sea are willing to offend such an existence. In other words, he has seen too many pirates who entered this sea area and were killed by Moonlight, Moria. Without exception, these people, no matter how strong or weak, were almost all taken away from their shadows. Hundreds of pirate ships are swallowed here every year. One can imagine how many shadows Moria has taken away. Thinking of this, Brook lowered his head in disappointment. Forget it, that guy is not something that ordinary people can deal with. 35. At this time, Luffy scratched his head suddenly and grinned. Hey, it's just Shichibukai, it's okay. Shichibukai, it's not like he hasn't killed him. Chen also said calmly. That guy Moria, according to his abilities, should be considered a superior combat power even in Shichibukai, but unfortunately, since he failed to challenge Kaido, he has been stunned. Now he should be the last in Shichibukai. Paramesha Shadow Fruit. A brief overview of its abilities is the ability to manipulate shadows. This ability is actually very powerful, and it can even put thousands of shadows into a person's body, making his strength soar. Moria, at her peak, even dared to challenge Kaido. This shows how powerful he is. It's a pity that Moria has now become a trash, who relies on the power of the shadows of others. Later, after participating in the Summit War, he was even expelled from Shichibukai by the world government due to lack of strength. It can be seen that after so many years, its strength has not only not improved, but has declined. This is somewhat similar to the sand crocodile. After that guy also challenged Whitebeard, Isshin took a detour. Although the development of fruit ability is quite remarkable, but there is no intention to practice hockey. By the way, Zoro, Chen turned to look at Zoro not far away, his eyes playful. Moria's subordinate is a zombie swordsman, the swordsman who slashed flying dragons in Wano Kuni legend. In his hand, he also holds the autumn water, with a large and sharp knife. Oh, Zoro's eyes narrowed slightly, as if a flame of war was burning in his pupils. If that's the case, then you can't miss it. Killing dragon swordsman, dragon horse. This legend is not only spread to Wano Kuni. Many people who practice kendo have heard this name. Well, Shichibukai's words are really just trivial. It was Usopp who spoke, and he was wiping his nose with a relaxed expression on his face. These words should not have come out of his mouth. But the other people around didn't feel strange at all. Everyone's face was full of confidence, as if the dignified, 7 warlords of the sea, were just scumbags that could be dismissed at will. Because they have all come a long way. Luffy. Not only did he learn Gear 3, but he also learned armament hockey from the dojo. Sanji. At this time, he has already opened the former 3rd gate of the 8th gate and learned various basic body techniques. Together with armament hockey, he is extremely powerful. Zoro. Although I haven't finished Bankai yet, I've made good progress in hockey practice. I have already started to combine Zanpakuto with my own swordsmanship and hockey, creating a lot of new moves. Usopp. The basic heroic spirit template, plus a large number of powerful ammunition transformed by magic circuits, also initially learned observation hockey, and the combat power has also been improved by leaps and bounds. Nami. At this time, she has become a powerful person of LV.3, not only can directly summon thunder and lightning, but also control magnetic force to a certain extent. Robin. The basic life energy, Ripple, has been learned. Chopper. Gained Zernia's life-sharing ability. Of course, Chen all got the same share of these things. At this time, the strength of everyone has undergone earth-shaking changes. Crocodile, the sand crocodile, that Luffy used to have to use tricks to defeat, is not guaranteed to lose even if he fights head-on. Like the previous Enies lobby battle, it can be said that the members of the CP9 organization did not pose much threat to them at all. If it weren't for the Buster Call, a large number of marine warships would surround the Enies lobby. And use strong firepower to cover the ground scrubbing bombardment, and there are no ships around them. It's not necessarily going to fall into such a miserable field. That battle can be said to be a terrain kill. All in all, it's just a small matter. Luffy grinned and patted Brook's shoulder as if he knew it well. Moreover, he does have a kind of confidence from the heart for the title of Shichibukai. The source of this confidence is, of course, a certain sand crocodile. Even in the trial dojo, he was taught a lesson by Doflamingo, who was also Shichibukai. But that didn't take away the confidence in Luffy's heart. Everyone, we just met by chance, but you, woo. Saying that, 2 lines of tears flowed from Brook's empty eyes. It's so touching. Okay, stop. Chen waved his hand. Let's eat first, and after eating, sail towards the Moria guy's lair. Right. Brook suddenly turned to Robin. This beautiful lady. Huh. Robin turned his head suspiciously. Can you see how fat you are? Boom. After a skilled punch, Nami clapped his hands and walked into the restaurant. It's dinner. Here is a huge island. Located in the center of the Devil's Triangle Sea, the island is surrounded by thick fog, making it difficult to see what's inside. The incomparably gloomy atmosphere permeates everywhere, terrifying. Whoa. The sea was separated, and Thousand Sunny broke through the layers of fog and broke into the vicinity of the island. Wow. Everyone raised their heads in amazement. Above this island is an incomparably huge flag with a pair of skulls with flaming bat wings painted on it. This is the largest pirate ship in the world, the Thriller Bark. Brook raised the crutches in his hand and said softly, this ship has been here for 10 years. In the past 10 years, the ships that have disappeared in this sea every year have been captured by it. My shadow was also thrown inside a few years ago. A ship as big as an island. Even the Thousand Sunny, twice the size of the Going Merry, is just an inconspicuous blob in front of it. This is actually a ship, Nami said in a loss of voice. Never heard of a boat as big as an island. Chen on the side looked calm. Actually, from the size of this ship, you can see how ambitious Moria was at the beginning. 5. 0. Ask for flowers. That is a kind of spirit that wants Kun to face the whole sea. Just like the Straw Hat Boy next to him who shouted every day that he wanted to be the Pirate King. But in the end, he still met the man. The strongest creature on land, sea and air, Kaido. Under the first battle, all Moria's heart was wiped out abruptly. For the past 23 years, they have all been in a state of slump, and even have no strength. At this time, Brook asked aloud, how do we get in? Divide in separately or? No, Chen smiled. Now, it's time to test the strength. With that said, he turned to look at Luffy and the others. Are you ready to face the entire 7 warlords of the sea force? Hey, 35. What responded to him was the confident smiles of everyone. Very good. Chen nodded and turned to look at the huge ship island in front of him. Then, let's declare war. Head on to Moria, one of the Shichibukai. A touch of scarlet rose from his eyes. 0. The majestic pupil power poured out. A huge space Uzumaki suddenly took shape, and everyone was sucked into it by Uzumaki and disappeared. At the same time, deep in the thriller bark, in a spooky palace, a huge figure was sitting on the throne, supporting his head with one hand, looking at the others in the hall. This is Moonlight Moria. With a height of nearly 7 meters, he is like a little giant, the tallest of all Shichibukai. A hairstyle that stands up like a fiery green. It looks like a devil, with 2 horns on the forehead, and pointed ears and teeth. There are criss-cross stitches from head to neck that resemble wounds, shirts with bat collars and gothic art clothing. It can be said that it has a demonic demeanor. Inside the hall, his subordinate Hogbuck was reporting with a smile. Han, whistling, and whistling. This time, a few good zombies have been transformed, and they should be able to perform well. Moria nodded with satisfaction. Hee, you did a good job, throwing them into the zombie army under Absalom's jurisdiction. Yes, my master, whistling. Hogbuck bowed slightly and let out a weird laugh. No, it should be said that the laughter of these two is very strange. At this moment, in the open space in the hall, the space suddenly distorted. Moria looked over suspiciously. What? This is the first time he has seen the situation of space distortion, so it is not clear what it is. I can only feel that the sight of that place seems to be distorted. Next moment, while Moria and the people in the hall were stunned, a group of people appeared out of thin air on the open space. It's you. Moria's pupils shrank slightly. Red pupil, Chen. Those scarlet eyes are really recognizable. The world government has sent the reward to the whole world, and Moria will naturally see it. For such a big pirate whose bounty has exceeded 1 billion, even he, as one of Shichibukai, has to pay enough attention. After all, there can be no weaklings for a pirate who can reach a bounty of this magnitude. Chapter 126 Showdown. What are you babbling about? The iron-headed ace, the wonder of fate. In the hall, the atmosphere fell silent for a while. Luffy and others were still curiously looking at the surrounding environment and the other party's personnel. On the other hand, Moria was in a daze. Where did these people come from? How did they appear? What did they want to do here? Question marks emerged from their heads. However, Moria's voice still brought many people back to their senses. It seems that you know me, Chen nodded unsurprisingly. Today, he is also considered a red man in the sea. The newly promoted super criminal with a reward of 1 billion yuan is equivalent to the Emperor's deputy of the 4 Emperors regiment. Even a single Shichibukai's name may not be able to match him. But little is known about him. The only thing that is known is the creepy pair of scarlet pupils on the reward map. This is also the origin of Chen's nickname, Red Eye. Humph. Moria snorted coldly. What did you want to do when you brought your men to me? Hey, wait. Luffy on the side raised his fist, looking excited, and almost jumped from the spot. Obviously, he didn't agree with what Moria said. I'm the captain. You know this guy Chen, don't you know me? Luffy protested loudly with dissatisfaction. Moria frowned. Zero Sanji took a serious look at Luffy, and then said, who are you, kid? 35. This is also normal. Although the Straw Hat crew made a big noise at the Ainz lobby, the bounty and fame all soared. But Moria is in this thriller bark after all. If it wasn't particularly important news, he wouldn't care. Just like Luffy, the supernova, with a reward of 300 million. In his eyes, he was just a fledgling boy. This kind of rookie pirate seems to have some strength, but every year, New World does not know how many corpses of these so-called supernovas are swallowed. The one who can really attract his attention has to be Chen. The bounty has reached the billion level, Emperor Vice. 0. Therefore, this strange phenomenon occurs now. The crew became famous, no one knew it and no one knew it. As the captain, Luffy is not known. This obviously reverses the normal situation. I've decided, Luffy raised his head unhappily, I'm going to beat you up. Moria was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Hey. You beat me up. This reaction is like hearing a big joke. No matter how he said it, he was one of the dignified 7 warlords of the sea, far from being a supernova that could touch porcelain. I see, Moria seemed to have figured out something, and looked at the figure in black in the hall. You really want to challenge me, right? You want to replace me and become the new Shichibukai. 5. The more he spoke, the more determined his tone became. It seems that Chen is the initiator of this matter. What nonsense are you talking about? Chen gave him a speechless look. With this kind of stuff, he really wouldn't take it personally. As for the location of Shichibukai, there is no way the world government would refuse to give him an invitation letter if he wanted to. A battle strength that may reach the level of a general, no one can ignore. With that said, Chen turned to look at Luffy and the others. Here, I'll leave it to you to solve it. Yeah, Luffy nodded heavily and said, I must beat up this fiery onion and help Brook get the shadow back. His tone was firm. The dark armament hockey already appeared on the clenched fist. Obviously, it's ready to go for real. Hey, Moria shouted unhappily, are you ignoring this uncle? However, Lu Chen didn't bother to pay attention to him at all. If that's the case, then I'll go back to the boat and wait for you. After waving his hand, the space suddenly distorted, and his figure disappeared in place. In the hall, Moria's group and Luffy's group looked at each other. And Moria, at this time, was so angry that her face was twisted. That guy, dares to ignore this uncle. Also ignored. His anger was far greater than Luffy's. After all, Luffy didn't care much about these things in the first place, and this anger would only be temporary. What kind of face, for him, may not be as real as a barbecue. But Moria is different, he is one of the dignified Shichibukai. It is the big pirate who was famous throughout the Grand Line. This ignored scene even reminded him of the man named Kaido, 23 years ago. Treat him like nothing. Very good, my uncle has decided. Moria showed her fangs and looked gloomy. I will destroy you all and see if that guy can still be so calm. While speaking, the entire hall was surrounded by silhouettes. This is his army of zombies. Oh, Luffy said solemnly, let the horses come. 9,000 Sunny, on deck. The space suddenly distorted. Lu Chen stepped out and sat on a reclining chair with a leisurely expression. He had a hunch that this battle would end soon. After all, Luffy and others are already much stronger than the original trajectory. Then, I should also think about another thing. Lu Chen grabbed the air, and a piece of information appeared in his hand. It was sent by the red-haired client, and he has not yet shown it to Luffy and others. Because, the headline above is, Ace arrested. For the first time, Lu Chen thought, could it be a repeat of the plot? Ace, how did you find Blackbeard? Lu Chen frowned slightly. It stands to reason. Now the Blackbeard group should be evading Marine's search. Since before, he had fooled Aokiji to clean up Blackbeard and others. Aokiji has never given up on the pursuit of Blackbeard and others. He didn't even have time to see Robin or something when events such as the Enies lobby later broke out. It was because they were searching for the Blackbeard gang. In this case, even Aokiji, the Blackbeard that Admiral couldn't catch, could be found by Ace. Lu Chen flipped through the information, and his expression gradually became speechless. Quote. This time, it wasn't really Blackbeard's fault. The guy was on the run, evading Marine's pursuit, and didn't have time to deal with Ace. The truth is, Ace searched for Blackbeard's trace by himself, but found that he couldn't find it anywhere. Isn't this nonsense? Marine can't do so many people, how can you find it alone? So, in this case, he used his brain. Since Marine is looking for Blackbeard, there must be information on the Blackbeard trail from Marine. So, Ace's head iron operation is here. He infiltrated Aokiji's warship directly, trying to steal intelligence. The results are naturally predictable. Today's Ace's strength is far from the level of the Emperor's Vice. The rank of squad leader corresponds to the General Star of the 4 Emperors Regiment. The gap between it and the higher level, General Emperor, is even more incalculable. In the case of Aokiji's own shot, Ace was directly beaten to the ground. After catching Ace at that time, Aokiji was also a little confused, wasn't he catching Blackbeard? Why in the blink of an eye, Blackbeard didn't catch him, but instead he caught the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. But on second thought, this is not a loss. After all, he is the squad leader of the 4 Emperors group, and he is also the strongest Whitebeard Pirates group. That said, it's also a big fish. Moreover, it was the big fish that jumped into his hands on his own initiative. Finally, Aokiji took the ace in his hand and went back to naval headquarters. The next thing came naturally. After the red hair learned the news, he sent someone to notify Lu Chen as soon as possible. After all, the two of them are now in a partnership, both acting as guides for Luffy. Tisk. Lu Chen raised Erlang's leg subconsciously, tapped his temple with one finger, and felt a little headache. This guy Ace. In this way, what he did before became useless. Originally, he fooled Aokiji to attack Blackbeard, just because he didn't want Ace to find Blackbeard. The result is good now. Blackbeard wasn't found, but Ace sent him to Marine's door. If you think about it, that guy's character is as eccentric as Luffy's, it's not surprising that he can do this. Lu Chen rubbed his chin helplessly. The key now is what the attitude of Marineford is. He has realized that summit war may be inevitable. Naval headquarters has long coveted the Whitebeard Pirates. Kun, one of the 4 emperors, facing the sea, the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard, is also old and frail and disease-ridden. This is undoubtedly an excellent breakthrough. Marine always wanted to open this breach, but never had the chance. It is impossible to go to the New World to fight the 4 Emperors Regiment. In that case, it will be more than just a Whitebeard to face. But all 4 Emperors threats. And it happens to be 1.3, and now Ace has sent an introduction. In Sengoku's consideration, he would definitely seize this opportunity to see if he could lead Whitebeard out. It's troublesome. Lu Chen put away the information in his hand, his eyes thoughtful. The red-haired guy sent the information to me because he wanted me to handle this matter. Ace was caught, and Luffy couldn't hold back. This is a chain reaction. At this time, boom, a loud bang came from the huge thriller bark ahead. It can be clearly seen that a giant-like figure stands up in it. It was Moria's shadow-gathering place, which absorbed the shadow power of thousands of people, and its body expanded infinitely, even smashing an island with a slap. The weakness is that this move relies too much on the strength of others. When the mental strength is insufficient, it will lead to loss of consciousness or runaway. Unfortunately, this guy has gone down the wrong path. Chen shook his head and stopped paying attention. He had to think about how to deal with the arrival of the Summit War. Chapter 127. Straw Hat Crew, show their magical powers. The overwhelming crowd, destroy Shichibukai. Thriller bark, in the first battlefield. Boom. With a huge steam on his body, Sanji kicked through the deck dozens of centimeters thick. The violent force that belonged to the 8 inner gates was unreservedly vented. With the dark armament hockey, for a while, there is a terrifying aura that no one can match. Opposite him, on the ground lay the broken bodies of 4 general zombies, apparently kicked so hard that they lost their ability to fight. Huh. Sanji let out a long breath, took out a cigarette from his arms and lit it in his mouth. Then he turned to look at other areas. These guys, haven't they been resolved yet? In this battle, he fought very happily. Although the load of opening 8 inner gates is heavy, only the former 3rd gate is opened. Coupled with his monster physique that far exceeds the average strength of the pirate world. So the impact is minimal. Cooperating with Armament Hockey, who has just gone to school, it can be said to be kicking one by one. In the second battlefield next to it, Nami flicked a coin in distress, and a blazing white lightning flashed between her. She learned this trick from the Masaka Makoto, who was watching the battle. It is a pity that although the power is great, it is really difficult for her to consume coins. With the sound of ding, the coin was bounced and rotated in midair. Pseudo-electromagnetic cannon. Boom. A huge impact force was formed, like a cannonball smashed out. Although there is still a big gap with Masaka Makoto's LV.5 inches railgun. But its power cannot be underestimated. The abilities of LV.1 and LV.022 were really not very useful, and at most they assist some things in assisted living. For example, a piece of scrap iron is slowly twisted into a pair of chopsticks or a bowl. But to LV.3 is different. This stage has been called the powerful person, and it is an existence with real combat ability. What is this On the opposite side, Absalom, one of the 3 weirdos, was dumbfounded. The whole person was bombarded by this terrifying, and flew out of the distance without a trace. Finally resolved, Nami wiped the sweat on his forehead, and a smile appeared on his face. Hee, I'm getting stronger now. 5. Not far away, in the 3rd battlefield, Usopp's eyes widened, and in observation Hockey's perception, the enemy's actions were fully understood. On the improved slingshot, there are strips of blue magic circuits that light up slightly. A specially made high-power magic ammunition was suddenly ejected by him. Boom. The ground cracked, and a puff of smoke rolled up. After the smoke cleared, only a large pit remained on the ground. Inside lies Hogbark, one of Moria's 3 weirdos. At this time, he was covered in scratches, his eyes were white, and white smoke was rising from his mouth. This is being blown up to the point of fainting. Okay. Usopp threw his fist hard, his face full of joy. The great Captain Usopp has gone farther and farther on the road of invincibility. 35. After the excitement, he put away the slingshot and looked at other battlefields in the distance. Especially in the center, where there is a huge figure standing, is the battlefield of Moria and Luffy. Isn't it resolved yet? He chuckled. Sure enough, Captain Usopp is the strongest. In the distance, in the 4th battlefield. Jung. 35. Zoro's eyes were slightly condensed, and his figure flew through the air very quickly. The 3 cold slash marks were like engravings, leaving conspicuous marks in the air. The sharp aura spread, as if to cut everything in half. 3 swords, Kai, Shadow Ghost, 3,000 worlds. Behind him, a zombie figure with a knife slowly split open. This is exactly dragon-slaying swordsman, Ryoma. In his hand, he also holds the Autumn Water, one of the 21 big sharp swords. As if he had regained his sanity at the last moment, Ryoma's hand slowly lifted up and handed the Autumn Water across. Obviously, he is giving a knife. Jung. Zoro put the words Hidao into the sheath, turned around and said solemnly, your sword is already a black sword, it is not suitable for me. Powerful swordsmen, the swords around them will gradually evolve into black swords under the armament color of day and night. In this regard, Hawkeye's black knife, Yi, is a typical example. And the real powerful swordsman, the black knife, used should also be condensed by himself, so that there will be a perfect fit. Instead of picking up the black knife, left by the predecessors. Ryoma's body slowly dissipated into smoke. Zoro frowned and took the Autumn Water. Well, I will help it find the real owner. When he took the knife, Ryoma's body finally completely dissipated. Next to it, in the 5th battlefield, Chopper and Frankie are in a stalemate with Perona, the princess on the opposite side. Suddenly, several hands emerged from Perona's body, trying to attack her. Haley, Perona let out a weird laugh. It's useless, I'm a ghost who ate the ghost fruit, your attacks have no effect on me at all. 995. On the opposite side, Robin's mouth twitched into a smile, really. As she spoke, a golden ripple rippled across her hands. What is this? Perona's eyes widened suddenly, and a bad premonition rose in her heart. Sure enough, the next moment, her hunch turned into reality. On the arms that grew out of her waist, golden ripples suddenly rippled. This is pure life energy, the nemesis of all ghosts and shadows. After a scream, Perona fell straight from the air and fell to the ground without moving. It's like a vampire who met the sun and was killed by Tionk. Robin breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately this trick works. 35. This guy is really tough. Frankie hasn't gotten a training boost yet, and Chopper has just learned the life-sharing ability. The combat power of the two of them is not much improved compared to the original trajectory. So the main force of this battle is actually Robin, who is an archaeologist. In the distance, the last battlefield is also in the central hall of the thriller bark. No, to be precise, the central ruins. At this time, the main hall was smashed to pieces by Moria, who had transformed into a giant. He. Huge, eerie laughter echoed through the ruins. Moria piled up a malicious smile on her face. Boy, didn't you look very good just now, what are you running for? As he said that, he slapped it down again, and shot a crack that was dozens of meters long on the ground. The billows of smoke rose, obscuring the sky. Combining the power of thousands of shadows, at this time, he is even enough to break arms with Kaido. But as Chen commented on him, Moria has already gone the wrong way. Too much reliance on the strength of others. Neither practice hockey nor limit the development of one's own fruit. And this moved shadow gathering place, which seems powerful, is beyond the scope of his spiritual power. Sudden, saw, the sound of breaking through the air resounded. Luffy's figure flew out of the smoke and dust, his eyes were serious. Since you said so, you're on fire, watch me beat you up. At the same time, his right arm had become incomparably huge and was supported by his uncoordinated body. The huge right arm suddenly clenched into a fist, and a layer of dark armament hockey covered it. This made his fists look extremely hard. Rubber. Giant bazooka. Huge fist carrying hockey pierced through the air fiercely, with a sharp cracking sound. As the air swirled, Moria's pupils shrank sharply. However, before he had time to act, the black fist had already printed on his stomach. Boom. It was as if someone was hitting a cowhide drum with a heavy hammer. An extremely dull crashing sound spread throughout the thriller bark. Cough wow. One punch. Armed color breaking defense. Moria's huge body suddenly bent like a shrimp, and her eyes seemed to be thrown out. There was a lot of saliva dripping from the corners of the mouth. Eyes began to turn white. At the same time, shadows began to be spit out from his grown mouth. Every time he spit out a shadow, his body became smaller, and his strength and breath began to weaken. Pat. 037 Luffy fell to the ground and looked up with some doubts. Big fire onion, did you get hit like this? After all, it is also one of Shichibukai. What he didn't understand was that he defeated the opponent with one punch. If this is the case, then the name of the opponents, Shichibukai, is too watery. Even when Alabasta fought the sand crocodile, he still managed to get it right. Although his strength has become much stronger now, this guy is also a Shichibukai, so he shouldn't be so weak. However, the fact is that the other party really seems to be dying. Moria's huge body began to slowly fall to the ground. One after another shadows rushed out of his mouth. Boom. After a loud bang, the battle was declared over. In fact, the reason for this strange scene is not that Luffy's punch is too strong. It's because of the flaws in Moria itself. Luffy's defense-shattering punch with armed color was just an introduction. It was as if a hole had been opened in the dam that was about to overflow. Moria displayed shadow-gathering ground, and her mental power was already unstable. Coupled with such a punch, he immediately lost consciousness, and all the thousands of shadows began to flee. This is why, as Chen said before, Moria's current strength is at the bottom of the Shichibukai. It is also the reason why he will be removed from the title of Shichibukai by the world government on the grounds of insufficient strength. After half a sound, the shores of the thriller bark. We're back. 55. Luffy and the others ran over together, followed by Brook, who finally retrieved his shadow and looked moved. On the deck of Thousand Sunny, Chen put away his thoughts and asked with a smile, 1. Luffy grinned to reveal the big white fang. Hey, win. Chapter 128 Marine Meeting. Brook's power choice, the king of the undead is coming. Soon, a piece of news spread to the sea. Moonlight, Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Beaten by the recent rise to fame, the Straw Hat crew. Moreover, all the members were defeated, and even the zombie army under his command was completely wiped out. When the news came out, the whole sea was shaken again. But fortunately, since the Straw Hat pirates went out to sea, the major events that have happened can be described as one after another. Now, a Shichibukai rout has hardly attracted much attention. At this time, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. In a solemn conference room. All the Marine executives took their seats. Marshal Sengoku, 3 Admiral, General Staff Crane Vice Admiral, Garp, and a group of Headquarters Vice Admiral. Even, there are 2 candidates for Admiral, T. Dolphin, Momoshiki. It can be said that all the high levels of the entire naval headquarters have gathered here. Well, Cha Dolphin scratched his hair helplessly. Marshal, what needs to call me and Gion back? The situation in New World is unstable. A few days ago, the red-haired guy met with Whitebeard. 99. T. Dolphin plus, Momoshiki Gion. 2 admiral candidates, both currently in charge of the bridgehead for New World. After all, Marine's base in the New World is just a few bridgeheads. It's not that they don't want to intervene more, it's that they can't. Whenever Marine's power goes a little deeper into it, it will cause the siege of the pirates in the New World. Therefore, the 2 admiral candidates in charge of the New World bridgehead work obviously have a heavy task. Not to mention, they are also responsible for monitoring the movements of the 4 Emperors group. This matter is very important, Sengoku sat in the main seat, his chin propped up in his hands, his expression solemn. But before that, maybe we should discuss a small thing first. Small thing. Garp on the side picked his nostrils and looked puzzled. Sengoku glanced at him, his face gradually gloomy. Who do you think made this trivial matter? Huh. Garp blinked and asked tentatively, could it be, old man? Humph. Sengoku snorted coldly, ignored it, and said. Recently, a new group of pirates has repeatedly defeated the 7 warlords of the sea. I don't need to tell you, I believe everyone should know who it is. Speaking of which, many people here have turned their attention to Garp. On the side seat, Akainu clasped his hands and looked indifferent. It's just a mere pirate, just wipe it out. No, Aokiji on the side suddenly said, what is revealed behind this incident is the institutional problem of the 7 warlords of the sea. 35. He pushed the blindfold up and continued. As Shichibukai, they were supposed to be sharp swords against pirates, but now, Shichibukai, who has been defeated by pirates many times, can still guarantee their proper role. You know, the privilege of the Shichibukai is earned with this duty. 7 warlords of the sea, each with a legal pillage license. Correspondingly, they are also responsible for clearing the pirates. Aokiji's implication undoubtedly means that Shichibukai, who has been defeated by the pirates, is no longer qualified to have this privilege. Akainu's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? He is a staunch supporter of the Shichibukai system. Using the power of those pirate garbage to deal with the pirate garbage, dog bites dog, is a scene that Akainu is very happy to see. As for the so-called legal plunder certificate, paying such a small price is very reasonable in his opinion. Aokiji didn't hide it, and said bluntly, I propose that the 7 warlords of the sea system be abolished. Akainu's eyes narrowed suddenly. I don't agree. The two looked at each other, pointed the needle to maiming, and neither one lost the other in terms of momentum. Aside, Kizaru was holding a razor and shaving his nails calmly. Enough. Sengoku rubbed his temples with some headache. This matter will be discussed later. And, even if they pass a resolution here, it's up to the 5 elders in the end. After all, the 7 warlords of the sea is an agency under the world government and has no relationship with Marine. Let's discuss the next thing. Sengoku took a deep breath, his face turned extremely serious. Next, today's main topic. Whitebeard Pirates, 2nd Division Captain, Fire Fist, Ace. Garp's eyes flickered on the side, but he remained silent. This time, Aokiji did a good job, 35 Sengoku said. Indeed, who would have thought that Aokiji would suddenly capture a central figure in the 4 Emperors group? Moreover, it is the Whitebeard Pirates who are short of thieves. Speaking of this, even Akainu's eyes softened a little. After all, it seemed to him that it had been done beautifully. Cough. Aokiji coughed lightly. Actually, this matter. It was Fire Fist who took the initiative to come to my warship. Hearing his explanation, everyone present cast a strange look. Obviously, there are not many people who believe. A pirate, or in other words, any pirate who is not a 4 Emperors, is unlikely to take the initiative to run to an admiral's ship. That's almost like dying. All in all, Sengoku said solemnly, I have decided to plan a public execution, right here in Marineford. And at the same time, reveal the identity of Fire Fist, Ace. 9. The eyes of everyone present were slightly condensed. Especially Garp. Kakuzu's eyes are twitching slightly. Sengoku didn't stop, but continued, his true identity is the son of One Piece Galdi. Roger. To execute him here would greatly enhance my marine's prestige. Also, it can also attract the Whitebeard Pirates. The so-called public execution of the son of the Pirate King is just a cover-up. The Whitebeard Pirates in the back is the main course. The world's #1 man, who is already old and sick, is the real purpose of Sengoku. This is a unique opportunity. After all, Marine couldn't break into the New World to kill Whitebeard, and the other 4 Emperors couldn't just sit idly by. Even if the other 4 Emperors are happy to see it, the risk is too high. Who the hell knows if those guys will suddenly stab you in the back? But now it's different. With Ace in hand, they can completely lead snakes out of their holes. For a time, all the high-level executives present already understood what Sengoku meant. Huh. Crane Vice Admiral let out a sigh of relief and concluded. It seems that this will be a big operation involving the entire Marine, and the old man in Newgate may not be able to escape this disaster. After this battle, even if you can't kill Whitebeard on the spot, he won't live much longer. The old guy who lives by hanging the liquid medicine, once he makes a full effort, the dark wounds on his body can kill him. It can be said that as long as Whitebeard comes this time, his death is basically doomed. At this time, no one could think of it. A reindeer, pet, who was only offered a reward of 50 Bailey by their Marine, no, the ship doctor. Mastered the life-sharing skill from the divine beast Xerneas. On the other side, on the sea. Brook practiced his singing in the bow. Luffy, on the side, applauded him with great interest. Sunshine Miles is sailing in the direction of the record needle. Why does this pointer keep pointing downwards? Usopp asked suddenly. Nami explained. Because of the Fishmen Island, it was originally at the bottom of the sea. Then how do we get down? Usopp was dumbfounded. They are a ship, not a submarine, and Luffy and Brook are still demon fruit power, and it is impossible for them to survive in the sea. So, we have to reach Sabaody land above the Fishmen Island first, Nami shrugged. By the way, Zoro on the side suddenly thought of something and looked at Chen. Brook, don't you have a customized training plan yet? For this, he is the most enthusiastic. After all, it is possible to watch the battles of a large number of other world powerhouses and learn a lot. For example, some of his current compound sword moves were learned from those strong men. Indeed, Chen slowly got up from the side of the boat. Huh, Brook in the bow also turned around. Training plan. What is that? Let me introduce again. Chen's mouth curled into a smile. I am the trainer on the ship, and I am in charge of customizing the training plan for you. 5. In short, as long as you complete the training task, you can acquire different abilities and become stronger. Brook scratched his explosive head. I don't quite understand it, but I'm still interested. Okay, then, a scarlet rose in Chen's eyes. Fantasy, build. The next moment, everyone was already in the auditorium of the huge arena. This is, Brook, who came to the fantasy world for the first time, was obviously a little stunned. This is the Phantom Gujao realm, the people on the side explained to him in a frenzy. Brook stretched out his hand and stroked the seats in the auditorium, and couldn't help sighing. What a fantasy, but it's too real. Brook, Chen reminded aloud. Next, I'll show you the 4 templates I picked out, read them carefully, and after you've read them, tell me your choice. 4 templates. Brook scratched his explosive head in confusion. Chen smiled. Then, let's start. Saying that, he snapped his fingers. Snapped. Quote. In the arena, a figure came out of nowhere. It has a pair of red pupils, wears a gorgeous black cloak, is huge, and holds a staff. With any skin, muscles, blood vessels, nerves and internal organs, it is a body with nothing but a skeleton. This is Ainz Ooal, the 41 Supreme Unifier of the Supreme Tomb of Nazarick. King of the Sorceress Kingdom. The ruler of death. The co-owner of countless undead creatures. Of course, he also has a familiar title, the Bone King. Chapter 129 Weird Black Mud. Unlimited stacks of buffs at the start. The Bone King fights, start from Superposition. This is. Brook froze in place, staring blankly at the skeleton figure in the arena. Could it be that there are people in this world with the same yellow spring fruit ability as me? 35. And, as unlucky as I am, when I found the body had already turned into a skeleton. 35. The ability of the yellow spring fruit, before Brook's death, was of no use at all. It just simply turned him into a landlubber who was afraid of the sea. But when he died, the effect was triggered, allowing him to be resurrected once. However, when Brook's soul returned from the underworld, the pirate ship carrying his body had disappeared in the fog. It took him a whole year to finally find his body. When he couldn't find it enough, it was already a skeleton with only an exploding head. No, Chen explained somewhat speechlessly, this one is a real undead, and your situation is different. In fact, this guy Brook can't be regarded as a serious undead. In other words, he is essentially a big living man in a skeleton skin. Can eat, drink, sleep, sing and even go to the toilet. Such an existence itself is very different from the normal undead. It can be said that Brook's skeleton body setting, just like Franky's Coke energy, is an incredible bug-level setting. This existence itself is full of unscientific. God is so special to eat and drink water, the ghost knows that he who has no stomach, where did he eat all the food? Real, undead. Brook stared at the black-robed figure in the arena with his empty eyes, a little fascinated. His name is Ainz Chen introduced calmly. The nickname, Bone King, has multiple identities. It is the supreme being of the great underground tomb of Na 037 Salik. He is also the king of the Sorceress Kingdom, the ruler of death, who rules countless powerful familiars. 35. At the same time, he is also a top-level necromancer and peak undead, with many world-class props and powerful weapons on his body. 35. All in all, this is an existence that is already amazing in its identity alone. Not to mention its own strength, the undead army under its command alone can push down countless enemies. Claiming to be unable to find an opponent, professionally fight wits and courage with the air. I can feel it. In Zoro's eyes, a deep fighting spirit emerged. This is a strong, very strong. It is different from the previous, strong, who looked harmless to humans and animals. As soon as this person appeared on the stage, the aura of the king of the undead who was facing the world spread out. Even if you are sitting in the auditorium across the distance, you can clearly feel the strong sense of oppression. It seems that even the air pressure in the air has begun to become lower, making people a little breathless. This time, it's a real skeleton. Chopper's voice trembled and his eyes changed. I don't know if our cross will be of any use to him. Usopp on the side swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. I think, it should be of no use. Sanji calmly exhaled a breath of smoke. It's not interesting, it's just a skeleton frame, there's nothing to see, if there is a succubus, I will be more interested. You guy, Nami was a little powerless to complain. She just felt that there were more and more weird guys on the boat. Actually, I'm very interested. Robin looked at the direction of the arena with a smile. The civilization of the undead is very different from ours. Different worlds must have different histories and civilizations. Robin is not interested in the Bone King on the field, but is interested in the history of the world where the Bone King lives. This is the knowledge-seeking spirit that a scholar born in Ohara must have. It's really good. Luffy sat crossed on the railing, his eyes lit up. Hey, Brook, I think his look is cooler than yours, do you want to consider changing it? Huh, Brook looked over at a loss, unable to keep up with the new captain's train of thought. This is normal. There are not many in the whole sea who can keep up with Luffy's brain circuit. Chen, who was not far away, shook his head. All in all, let's start, Brook, and have a good look. Saying that, he snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the originally stagnant picture in the arena suddenly came to life. Crack. At the same time, a cloud of slime-like black mud fell into the arena out of thin air. This pool of black mud just appeared, and there was a spooky curse that came along with it. It seems that this thing is the aggregate of all evil curses. Goo. A strange and inexplicable sound came out. On the body of the black mud monster, bloodshot eyeballs opened and closed one after another. The black mud on his body was like asphalt that had not yet solidified, leaving deep marks on the ground. Occasionally, a black mud tentacle sticks out and retracts. This scene makes the sand value go crazy. Anyone who meets these eyeballs will have a chill from the bottom of their heart that reaches the depths of their souls. Gollum. In the audience, I don't know who could not help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The expressions of everyone seemed a little stiff. What kind of monster is this? Nami's voice was trembling slightly. This was the first time that, as a monster opponent created by Chen, everyone felt such a great sense of psychological oppression. Those in the past, whether it was a blood beast, a giant python, or a three-headed flying dragon, etc. Although they are all fierce and incomparable existences, people never feel how terrible those things are. At most it feels powerful. But the black mud in front of me makes people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Not because of how strong it is, but because this thing is weird enough. As the saying goes, the greatest fear of mankind is the unknown. And this beach is full of black mud with a cursed breath of yin acbd, which represents unknown at this time. Moreover, its image is terrifying and strange, making people subconsciously want to look away. The eyeballs that opened one after another and the tentacles that protruded out brought a great mental impact. This thing, you created it too. Usopp found the blind spot and turned to look at Chen. He remembered that this was an illusion, and the monsters in it were all created by this guy Chen. For a time, everyone around them turned their attention. Their eyes were full of incomprehension. Cough. Chen touched his chin subconsciously, but shrugged and admitted, this is indeed created by me. This thing can be regarded as one of his bad tastes. It was his attempt to explore the Gram-type monster. After all, the characteristics of the Gram-type monster can be summed up in two words, mysterious and unknown. And at this point, the pool of black mud in the field was clearly done fairly well. At the very least, the Bone King, Ainz Ooal Gong, who was opposite it, was extremely cautious at this time. What kind of creature are you? The pool of black mud on the opposite side successfully made him feel the greatest vigilance. In the face of this kind of unknown, Bone King has always been willing to do the best preparations. Guji. There was a strange sound from the black mud, and all of a sudden, tentacles protruded frantically from its body. This scene is like Luffy stretching his arms. But the difference is that the number of these tentacles is extremely large, and there is a strange curse or attached to them, as if they will be eroded by the curse as long as they touch it. Tread. The Bone King stepped on it, and the whole person flew back directly, avoiding these tentacles. With his excessively cautious nature, it is impossible for him to take such an unknown attack arrogantly. Clap. The tentacles pressed against the open space, and immediately turned into pitch black mucus, covering the ground. It seems that from now on, these grounds have become restricted areas, and anyone who steps on them will be cursed. The black mud monster didn't care whether the attack hit or not. After all, even if it doesn't hit, it can expand its cursed realm in disguise. It's a way of fighting like cheating. The Bone King stood in the distance, as if feeling a bit of a headache, but they've already been approached, so I had to fight back. Saying that, he slowly raised the scepter in his hand. Brilliant emerald body. Open black lens bracket flight close black lens bracket. 66 open black lens bracket blessing of the magic singer close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket infinite barrier close black lens bracket. 35. Open black lens bracket magic barrier sacred close black lens bracket. Essence of life. High level full attribute enhancement. Open black lens bracket free close black lens bracket. False information life. See-through, supernatural intuition, advanced resistance enhancement, chaos cloak unyielding, perception amplification, advanced luck magic amplification, dragon power, advanced hardening, heavenly aura absorption. 35. It's not over yet. Enhanced penetration, advanced magic shield, essence of magic power, magic triple maximum enhancement critical minds, magic triple transformation high level magic seal, magic triple maximum strong rank ascension magic arrow. In the air, countless magic flashes continued to emerge. Not to mention the crowd in the audience. Even the black mud monster on the opposite side seemed to be stunned, shrinking in place. What the hell is this? Everyone's eyes widened, their mouths slightly opened, and their faces were sluggish. I have never seen anyone stacking buffs for themselves at the beginning of a battle. And there are so many stacks. With dozens of buffs stacked on the body, can a ghost break it? Chen shrugged. That's how that guy fights. There was another sentence that he didn't say, that's all, it's not over yet. There is a saying that is good, the Bone King fights, and the superposition starts. In other words, immediately everyone will be able to see the scene of the forbidden spell setting off fireworks. Chapter 130 Start with your hands to show your respect. The sky is falling. A sacrifice to the goddess of the black goat. A burst of whispers of magic elements sounded. As Chen thought before, in the arena at this time, the preparatory activities of the Bone King is obviously not over yet. Guck. The black mud monster obviously won't watch the opponent add buff to itself. The open and closed eyeballs on its body suddenly all stared, and bursts of dark rays of light condensed in the pupils. Death gaze. A huge strange curse power spewed out in the direction of its sight. These forces are chaotic and disorderly, carrying unpredictable terrifying powers. Boom. In the air, layers of various magical defense formations were suddenly blasted out. These are all the magical protections that the Bone King had given him before, and they were originally hidden. At this time, he was attacked by the cursed power, so these magic defense formations were all activated. A large amount of curse energy continuously ripples on these magical defense formations. There is already a layer of defense formation that has been directly eroded and turned black, and then weathered and disappeared. This shows how powerful these curses are. Even the magic circle of energy nature will be corroded and corrupted by life, not to mention the general human body. Have you blocked it? That's good. The Bone King nodded with satisfaction, and began to chant and cast spells with confidence. A huge blazing blue magic circle floated up from around him, and then quickly expanded. After that, the magic circles continued to stack up and down, layer by layer in the air, forming a huge blue beam of light. Among them, there are nearly dozens of small magic circles slowly rotating. Like a dragon whale absorbing water, countless magical elements from heaven and earth converged here. The energy fluctuations that spilled out gradually became more and more terrifying. In the auditorium, everyone's breathing gradually slowed down, looking at the huge magic circle in the field, their eyes straightened. Usopp's eyes trembled. What the hell is this? Chen was silent for a while, and then said, it should be regarded as a meeting gift for the Bone King. Hearing this, the expressions of everyone around froze. What a godsend. Whose meeting ceremony would be so scary? In fact, Chen is really not talking nonsense. The Bone King fights almost always start out of position to show respect. Nami said with some difficulty. This kind of terrifying energy fluctuations looks like a big move, right? It is indeed a big move. Chen nodded. Super level magic is a special level magic. He introduced. In terms of the rank of magic, this magic that is already outside the rank can be said to be magic or not. Strictly speaking, this thing has exceeded the scope of magic, so instead of calling it magic, it is better to call it forbidden spell. This concept is probably similar to the relationship between bombs and nuclear bombs. If you have to say, nuclear bombs can also be called bombs. However, due to the huge difference in power and effect between conventional bombs and nuclear bombs, it is difficult to really confuse the two. That is to say, Brook responded. This is using superposition magic to say hello. Everyone else around him cast an unbelievable look. Chen shrugged. Yes, his fighting style has always been like this. 9. With the cautious to ultimate mentality of the Bone King, when facing the enemy, of course, he will release the strongest attack method at the beginning of the game to test. The lion beats the rabbit with all his strength. He will never start feeding tricks with small skills like those regular villain bosses. When I wanted to enlarge the move to end the battle later, I found that the protagonist had exploded. So the ending is obvious. This kind of operation, the Bone King will naturally not have it. He likes to use the safest way to eliminate all threats. Buzz. At this moment, the whispering sound of the magic elements in the field suddenly became grander. A burst of roars sounded, and on the magic circle, the blazing blue light dazzled. The Bone King's arm was raised suddenly, as if to embrace the sky. Superposition magic falling from the sky. Boom. The huge amount of magic elements that had been accumulated for a long time began to explode wildly. The blazing blue beam of light with a diameter of hundreds of meters enveloped the black mud monster in the distance. The ground began to crack inch by inch, spreading like a spider web in all directions. Dust stirred up, billowing into the sky. Terrifying energy fluctuations swept up, pushing out huge waves in the air. Che la la. Faintly, everyone seemed to hear a strange sound, this kind of abnormal sound, like the high-temperature boiling oil hit the cold water, the reaction is extremely violent. That is the black mud monster slowly melting under the continuous bombardment of a large number of magic. For a time, there was only that blazing blue light left in everyone's eyes, and nothing else. A gust of wind came blowing their hair. Usopp blinked forcefully. Is this the end? It's hard to imagine that anything could survive such a horrific attack. Even the three-headed flying dragon with terrifying vitality before, I'm afraid it won't work. No, Chen clasped his hands and said calmly, this strange thing is very difficult to destroy. It is different from the three-headed flying dragon with strong vitality before. The reason why this black mud monster is difficult to destroy is its strange way of existence. To be precise, it is neither a living body nor a beast. It is an aggregate formed by a large amount of curse energy, and it does not even have a clear consciousness. Is a real downright monster. This kind of existence can be restrained, suppressed, sealed, and defeated, but it cannot be completely eliminated. Soon, the magic light in the scene slowly dissipated, and after the smoke and dust also faded, the scene was finally revealed. On the ground, a large pit with a diameter of hundreds of meters was particularly conspicuous. In the center of the big pit, a pool of black mud that has become much smaller is slowly creeping. Isn't it dead yet? It's a tough opponent. The Bone King took a step back, raised the staff in his hand, and was alert to the opponent's counterattack. However, the expected counterattack did not come. On the contrary, the black mud monster surging and slowly retreated. At the same time, in the air, the dark cursed power was absorbed by it. For a while, its body began to gradually swell up again. Obviously, this is self-healing. It is originally composed of curse energy, and it can naturally recover by absorbing curse energy. Want to recover? The Bone King's voice was very calm. Even in battle, he can judge the situation with exceptional clarity. Skyfall can't even kill, it's worthy of being a strange thing. As if thinking of something, the Bone King raised the staff in his hand. Weird should end in weirdness, then, try this trick. 5. 0 katakana middle dot for flowers. With his actions, the field suddenly changed. Buzz. A series of pitch black magic circles appeared out of nowhere. The energy fluctuations revealed above are extremely dark, deep, and unpredictable. Threads of jet black cotton wool-like objects began to float in the air. No matter how you look at it, this doesn't look like magic performed by a serious magician. What is it? In the audience, everyone's eyes widened. From these magic circles, they even felt a curse that was even weirder than the black mud monster on the opposite side. For a time, a large number of beetles were suddenly summoned in the arena. After these beetles appeared, they stayed motionless and had no intention of attacking. The Bone King's hand suddenly opened. Superpower magic, sacrifice to the Black Goat Mother Goddess. 99. Whoosh. Suddenly, an invisible wind blew up in the arena. This is the wind of the dead, and any living being touched will be deprived of life. Obviously, the black mud monster on the opposite side is not a living creature, and these winds can't help it. But the goal of the Bone King was not it, but the beetle lives that were summoned in the field. The next moment, a large number of beetles fell to the ground and fell into death. Afterwards, a scene that made people sank crazy appeared. Hiss. A huge black mass of meat was suddenly summoned, with many tentacles on it, and a big mouth dripping with mucus. This is the Black Goat Goddess, Shab Nicholas. He is the outer god in the mythology of the Gram system, and controls all reproductive powers. 35. Suddenly, from the dead beetles, black goat cubs emerged. These beetle lives are the so-called sacrifices. These so-called cubs have incomparably huge bodies, and their bodies are all black. On the body, there are no eyes, ears, or nose, but there are huge mouths all over it. In the mouth, there are neatly arranged clean white fang teeth, with silky mucus elongated between the teeth. Soon, these cubs strode to the front of the black mud monster. The curse that can make all living beings die immediately seems to them that it does not exist at all. Hold head high. A big mouth can't wait to bite down, tearing off pieces of black mud and swallowing it. A black mud monster that cannot even be wiped out by super magic, Skyfall. But they are eaten by these black goat cubs as snacks. This is what the Bone King said before, ending the weirdness to the weirdness. Snapped. With the snap of his fingers, the scene in the arena that made people lose their sanity suddenly fell into a stagnation. Chen turned his head to look at everyone, and raised his eyebrows slightly. At this moment, whether it was Usopp, Chopper or Zoro, all of them had dull eyes, and their faces turned blue. Obviously, this strange and unpredictable battle made them a little bit unbearable. Fortunately, this is just a projection summoned by superposition magic, and it is still in an illusion. If the outer gods really come, I am afraid that everyone has already begun to distort. Cough. Chen coughed lightly, waking them all up. Now, how do you feel? Chapter 131 The Emperor, Hueco Mundo, is here. Baragan Luzenbairn. The unsolvable power of death and aging. In the audience, everyone's expressions were inevitably a little stiff. Although Chen woke them up from their sluggish state. But that huge mental shock is not going to subside in a while. The most important thing is that the battle just now was too sanitized. The original black mud monster is scary enough. Unexpectedly, the Bone King on the opposite side also made a sacrifice to the Black Goat Goddess. Cough. Zoro coughed lightly, and his expression returned to normal first. My feeling is only one, it is very strong and difficult to deal with. This kind of bizarre opponent is difficult to entangle to the point of numbness. The most typical is that you give the opponent a knife, the other party is fine, and as a result, you yourself are in a super debuff state such as curse or soul poison. Moreover, even if you defeat the opponent, it is difficult to really eliminate the opponent completely. After a battle, the biggest feeling in the whole article is two words: disgusting. It's obvious that he is pressing the opponent to fight, but in the end it is himself who suffers. In a word, Zoro would rather fight an existence stronger than himself, rather than encounter such a strange thing. Brook on the side tugged at his explosive head. This Zero Sanji is really strong, but his tone was full of words. In the end, he continued. Or, let's look at the back first, shall we? Although they are both skeletons, he has some intimacy with the Bone King. But this fighting style obviously made him a little difficult to accept for a while. That's fine. Chen shrugged indifferently, and then snapped his fingers. Snapped. Suddenly, the screen in the arena was reset. The pitch-black mucus on the ground was wiped out one by one, and everything returned to its original appearance. At the same time, a new figure descended into the field. This is a tall human figure. After discovering that this was a normal human being, everyone was relieved. After all, the impact of the Bone King just now on everyone was really big. This is a very burly and muscular man. He looks like an old man, with short white hair and a crown-shaped headdress. There is a huge golden compass around his waist, and he wears a coat similar to a long jacket. Although the picture is in a static state, everyone can feel the arrogant and contemptuous aura on his body. As if everything in the world is just an ant in his eyes. Although it feels quite normal. Usopp wiped his nose. But, a human, shouldn't the fit with this guy Brook be as high as that of a skeleton? Brook himself is a skeleton. The Bone King just now was also a skeleton. The compatibility between the two is naturally not low. But the person in front of him was a serious human being. Brook himself rubbed his chin. Well, let's see, after all, I was once a human being with flesh and blood. 99. Sanji, Nami and others next to him also nodded in approval. Chen glanced at them strangely. Who told you that this is a human? Huh, everyone looked at him blankly. Well, Chen shook his head. Let's let you guys see his true face. As he spoke, he waved his hand in the direction of the arena, as if he had picked up the blackboard and wiped off the chalk words on the blackboard. The next moment, in the field, the tall human figure suddenly changed its appearance. The terrifying Reiatsu spilled out. A hideous skeleton head rests on the top of the neck. On the top of the head, the golden crown is inlaid with red gems. On the long purple jacket, strands of black fluttering fluttered in the air. A layer of black flame ignited on his body. There is a long silver chain from under one corner of the crown, similar to all death chains in the traditional legend of Shinigami. This is Baragan Luzenbairn, the world of Shinigami, the former ruler of Hueco Mundo, Chen introduced aloud. Baragan Luzenbairn, the meaning of the name, the king of the gods. It's number 2 in Arankar Espada, and his subordinates call him, Your Majesty, and he can be regarded as a veritable emperor. Its ability is to symbolize the most terrifying of the 10 kinds of death, aging. Strictly speaking, in terms of ability alone, almost no one in the entire Espada can match Balagan. If it weren't for Aizen's appearance, I'm afraid he would continue to rule the entire Hueco Mundo. The ability of aging is really too buggy. It is not so much aging as it is the acceleration of the passage of time. Balagan is able to freely control the time and age of things around him and what he touches. This is a conceptual type of capability. Even Broken Bee's Bankai ability can be given the characteristic of death by it, and it can be easily cracked. The incomprehension of its ability is simply not something that can be eliminated by conventional means. Of course, in the end, he died under the backlash of his own abilities. Who would have thought that a severed hand that was eroded by his own ability could in turn erode himself? This is quite a plot-killing flavor. After all, with this level of powerhouse, who can't perfectly control their own power? To be killed by his own power. It's ridiculous. Like Aokiji was frozen to death by himself, Akainu was scalded to death by his own lava, or Kizaru was killed by his own laser. No matter how you look at it, there is a sense of absurdity. Balagan. Brook stared blankly at the figure of the great skeleton on the field. What a powerful momentum. That's Reiatsu. 39 Zoro holding the sword with a serious face. It's the power unique to the Shinigami world powerhouse. Quote. In the trial dojo, he has challenged many strong men in the Shinigami world. After all, the powerhouse is over. They're all using Zanpakuto. Although there are many orthodox ways of the sword, there is no doubt that the number of strong swordsmen in that world far exceeds that of other worlds. So, the powerhouses of the Shinigami world are Zoro's favorite challenge. At the same time, it can also make him proficient in the use of Zanpakuto. As that so, Brook nodded. I always feel that these two have the same aura. The previous Ainz Ooal was the king of the undead. The one in front of him is the ruler of Hueco Mundo, Emperor Arankar. Although both are skeletons, they are also emperors. And he, although he is also a skeleton, but, all in all, it's hard to say. It doesn't matter what identity you are, what matters is the degree of strength fit, Chen said calmly. As long as you think it's suitable, you can choose its template. After speaking, he snapped his fingers again. Then, let's start. 99. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the still pictures in the arena suddenly began to flow. Crap. A large cloud of pitch-black mucus fell from the sky, fell to the ground, and then condensed together, turning into a pool of black mud monsters. Bloodshot eyeballs spread all over the black mud monster's body, opening and closing one by one. In no time, there are tentacles made of black mud sticking out, like a snake spitting out a letter, ingesting some kind of pheromone in the air. The strange curse breath spread out in an instant. The atmosphere of the entire arena became very gloomy. Oh, Balagan slowly turned his head and looked at the pool of black mud with deep eyes. It's something I've never seen before. Forget it, it doesn't matter, he said, and he stretched out a big skeleton hand and grabbed it lightly in the air. A double-edged axe appeared out of thin air in his hand. This is his weapon. It doesn't matter anymore. Balagan didn't care about the black mud monster opposite him at all, his eyes staring. There is no existence in this world that can escape the power of aging. Even the world itself, when enough time passes, will decay and perish. This is his power. Aging is the most powerful and absolute power among the 10 forms of death. Call. A long sigh full of death breath came from Balagan's mouth. The surrounding ground suddenly began to weather, crack, and turn into yellow sand. For a time, the entire arena was enveloped by the breath of death. The sigh of death pierced through the air and blew across the black mud monster on the opposite side in an instant. As time passed madly, the concept of aging was forcibly blessed on the body of the black mud monster. Kakaka. As if solidified, the black mud monster's body condensed by the liquid curse force was abruptly turned into a solid 1.3. A trace of crack appeared on its body. In the audience, everyone's eyes widened. The strange and inexplicable black mud monster seemed extraordinarily vulnerable in the face of this conceptual ability involving time. No, to be precise, no existence can ignore this power. Time, aging, death. These three terrible elements constitute Baragan's incomprehensible ability. Usopp said with difficulty. No wonder, this guy is called the Emperor. With this power, of course no one can defy him. G35. There was a strange sound from the black mud monster. The pitch-black tentacles lifted up and danced in the air. Obviously, a sigh of death alone is not enough to kill this cursed aggregate. After all, it is not strictly a living thing in itself. Oh, seeing this, Baragan raised the double-edged axe in his hand. Interesting. Chapter 132 has no teachings to pass on, and no self-expression to describe. Azrael, sue the angel of death. No one knew how a skeleton, without even flesh, showed a smile. But the truth is in sight. In the arena, Baragan's skeleton head opened and closed up and down, although there was no laughter, but people seemed to hear the laughter of quack. It was as if he had encountered something that interested him. Bang dang. The chain is dragged. The double-bladed axe sparked on the ground. Guck. A sharp sound resounded in the arena. The black mud monster is obviously not a character that waits to die, or in other words, it is a cursed energy aggregate that instinctively will find a way to devour all living beings. Saw. The air was pierced, and hundreds of cursed black hands fell from the air. For a time, even the black flames around Baragan began to take on the aura of curse. As if the next moment, strange and ominous will come. The terrifying Reiatsu that swept across the audience actually began to weaken. Even the surface of Baragan's skeleton began to have fissures. These cursed powers are unreasonable at all. Once infected, they will constantly erode the source of the other party like maggots on the tarsus. From the flesh to the energy, and even the soul, will gradually decay because of this curse. Interesting, how could it even affect me? Baragan bowed his head slightly and his eyes were deep. However, I'm starting to feel bored. 99. Then, goodbye. As he spoke, his skeleton arm swung violently, and the Shinigami chain dragged the double-edged axe ahead to cut it. The axe of death. Oh, 2. The atmosphere full of death and ruin instantly filled the audience. The terrifying wind pressure pushed away from both sides, and a deep crack with a diameter of several meters was cut out on the ground of the arena in the middle. This seemingly unremarkable blow was like a scythe in Shinigami's hand. The vitality that can cut off everything contains extremely pure destruction. Bang dang. The chains were pulled back, and Baragan put away the double-edged axe. It was an interesting battle. 35. Call. A breeze blows. The black mud monster on the opposite side completely solidified in place, and when it was blown by the wind, it began to annihilate every inch, gradually turning into fly ash and dissipating in the air. Obviously, the battle is over. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the picture in the arena suddenly froze. In the audience, everyone was still a little dazed. Is it over? Nami blinked, and pointed his finger at the field. It's too casual, isn't it? The skeleton emperor named Baragan did two things in total from his appearance to the end. A death sigh, a death axe. This is normal, Chen said calmly. These moves are meaningless to Baragan. What is really powerful is the power he possesses, aging, death, time. 55. 3. Any strike will be accompanied by the power of these concepts. It looks like a simple axe, but it is similar to other people's big moves. It's like a bald head's serious punch. I see, Zoro thoughtfully holding the knife. Compared to moves, core abilities are also extremely important. For the first time, he thought of physique and hockey. Like the Hawkeye guy, strong enough physique, coupled with the tempered hockey. It can be cut out with a single knife, without any name of swordsmanship, it has great power. This is the ability that the core strength of itself is strong enough to have. Zoro let out a sigh of relief. In the battle of these otherworld powerhouses, he can always learn a lot. Brook also sighed. He is indeed a very powerful character. That kind of terrifying Reiatsu, as soon as he appeared, was like an Emperor Kun coming into the world, overwhelming everyone. The power of its master is also terrifying, and it has touched the boundaries of the concept. You are a person with the ability of Wonquan fruit, Chen said in a calm voice. It's a creature that crawled back from the underworld to the present world. This kind of death power should be quite suitable for you. Well, Brook scratched his explosive head. It seems so. Even so, you can choose whichever you want, Chen shrugged. It's all up to you. 99. Well, Brook took a deep look at the figure of the great skeleton on the field, as if to deepen his impression. It can be said that these two who are now appearing. In fact, he is very satisfied. In other words, its power has exceeded Brook's psychological expectations. A king of the undead, a Hueco Mundo, emperor. He bet that he had never seen such a terrifying existence in his life. Both are skeletons, naturally longing for such a powerful force. It's hard to imagine that he has the opportunity to become as strong as these two. Then, let's start the next one. Lu Chen snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the screen in the arena was suddenly reset. At the same time, a new figure came out of nowhere. This is a tall figure with a height of 2.2 meters. The whole body was covered by a dark cloak, and only the skull on the face was exposed. With his hands folded in front of him, he was leaning on a sharp sword. A bleak and chilling aura spread out, as if this arena had been transformed into his domain. The whole person stood there, like a shadow sinking into the dark side of the world. Anyone who sees him will feel a life-threatening attack from the heart. It seems that if you are not careful, your throat will be cut by his sharp blade. King Hassan Saba, 35. Lu Chen introduced aloud. Code-named, Old Man Yamanaka, an assassin with a skull mask. The first Hassan was born when the assassin order was established as the assassin, and the name, Old Yamanaka, became a title passed down from generation to generation. It is the legendary assassin who will appear when Hassan goes astray and cut off his head, that is, Hassan who beheaded Hassan. There were no witnesses to him in the assassination order, which makes sense, because when he saw him, his life was over .99. This is the king of assassination, King Hassan. A legendary assassin whose traces of existence are unclear. That means, Usopp blinked. This guy is a killer. Yes, 35 Lu Chen nodded. He is a legendary heroic spirit in the assassin agency from the Fate world. 99. I see. Everyone's eyes widened, especially Zoro, Nami et al. From the beginning of the illusion observation, they have seen a lot of powerhouses from that world. Not long ago, in Robin's power choice, there was a Nine-Tails god, Tamamome, who also came from that world. Lu Chen looked at the figure in the field, and commented calmly, there is no teaching to pass on, and there is no self to describe. Swordsmen will turn into messengers of destiny, and their skills have surpassed the realm of masters. It can no longer be called life, but has stepped into the realm of nature and phenomena. In the valley, the realm of life and death is blurred. The swordsman who always touches death dies while continuing to live. It's like the legend of the old Yamanaka that he made himself. As Lu Chen's voice sounded, the surroundings gradually fell into silence. Everyone looked thoughtful and had a preliminary understanding of the figure in the field. Then, Lu Chen snapped his fingers again. Let's start. Snapped. Quote. With the snap of his fingers, the stagnant picture in the arena suddenly came to life. Crap. A large cloud of pitch-black cursed slime fell from the sky, smashed to the ground, and spread into a ball. Black mud monsters condensed on the ground. But the difference this time is that its bloodshot eyeballs are not locked onto any enemies. Constantly scanning the field, it was as if the figure of the black-clothed bucket 037 awning on the opposite side did not exist. Breathing interruption, Lu Chen explained in the audience. This is a technique that assassin is used to, but in Wang Hassan's hands, it works even better. The whole person seems to be in the shadows. No one could sense his breath. It wasn't until the moment before his butcher knife cut through his skin that his hideous fangs were revealed. At this moment, Wang Hassan's figure had disappeared from the spot. Jung, jung, jung. One after another slash marks spread all over the air, smashing the black mud monster into fine pieces of black mud scattered all over the sky. But all his slashes seemed to be doing nothing. The next moment, a large amount of black mud fell back and gathered again into black mud monsters. This monster composed of cursed energy cannot be destroyed by physical attacks in the usual sense. What is he doing? In the audience, Zoro's brows furrowed deeply, wasting your energy. Moreover, the dark power of the curse has begun to climb up along the great sword, eroding King Hassan. Azrael, accused the angel of death, Lu Chen explained calmly. A sparse and ordinary great sword, but it was soaked in the belief that this man kept wielding and believing in all his life. Because King Hassan always walks in the realm of Rivendell, all attacks by his sword will have an instant death effect. Although the probability is very low, no matter what it exists, it will be judged by the characteristics of instant death. People who are in the valley have long been accustomed to death, and because they are assimilated with death, they also have instant death resistance. At this point, everyone around them opened their eyes wide. Instant death judgment. Even cursed aggregates can be killed instantly. No wonder this guy keeps swinging his sword at that pool of black mud monsters. Chapter 133 There is no life without death, and there is life without death. In the arena, Wang Hassan looked unusually clumsy. His height of more than 2 meters seemed so weak and funny when facing the indescribable thing, and the seemingly ridiculous attack seemed so powerless and helpless. But, it is such a clumsy and useless person, but the cursed aggregate does not seem to find any counterattack at all. He didn't even know he was attacked. Gradually, everyone on the boat discovered the reason. There was a look of astonishment on his face. How could it be? 35. Zoro, as the most assiduous person and the person with the strongest fighting consciousness, was the first to discover the way. His attack was not detected by that monster. After Zoro's point, others also understood what was weird. It turned out that King Hassan's attack was not discovered by the cursed aggregate. Sanji frowned slightly and lit a cigarette involuntarily. He was just preparing drinks for Nami and Robin. If it is said that the previous Bone King and the King of the Void Circle are oppressive at the level of strength, then this King Hassan is too terrifying himself. As Sanji and Zoro spoke, others also expressed their opinions one after another. You see it clearly. Lu Chen listened to their words and smiled. The purpose of the assassin's practice is to make himself invisible. This invisibility is not literal invisibility, but to prevent the opponent from discovering him, as if his own person disappeared in this world. Only in this way can assassination be accomplished, and Wang Hassan's realm is a higher level. He has completely erased himself. Although this cursed aggregate has eyes, it does things by perception. Naturally, it is impossible. Find him. In our world, it is absolutely impossible to be perceived by observation hockey. Lu Chen's introduction was simple, and he was surprised. You know, Wang Hassan has just been summoned by him. This guy never spends more than a minute with the cursed aggregate, and he can find its weakness unexpectedly. This is a terrible person. Lu Chen commented on Wang Hassan. The others also nodded. This group of cursed aggregates is indeed impossible to judge with the naked eye. Observation hockey, some of them have cultivated, and some have not, but they can all understand how powerful it is. This King Hassan was able to avoid seeing and hearing by the seemingly simple method of concealing his figure with one hand. Even if they are wise, they can judge not only by perception or sight, but is it really possible for them to evade King Hassan's attack? No, everyone shook their heads in the simulated battle in their minds, and someone like Zoro Sanji who was deeply involved in the play even showed a look of fear. This is a terrible man, no. This is a death incarnate. Looking at King Hassan wielding a great sword in his hand in the arena, Lu Chen also became passionate after a long absence. Come on, the incarnation of death, Shinigami's spokesperson, show your strength. 35. As if feeling Lu Chen's expectations. It seems too boring. Wang Hassan stopped the attack. Looking at this indescribable thing in front of him, there is no joy or sadness on his face. People stood at its feet without worrying that it would attack him, and gently inserted the big sword into the ground. If there is no death, there will be no life, and only if there is death can there be life. On the great sword, countless scars appeared on it. Just those scars, you can understand how many battles he and it have gone through. The ordinary to the extreme shape shows endless oppression. With King Hassan will show the power. A blue light, representing the netherworld, rose from the ground. It directly illuminated his entire body, showing an unparalleled sense of oppression and an unquestionable appearance. The temperament of a king, the appearance of a tyrant. This is the king of assassins, as long as it is an enemy standing in front of him, then it is the soul of the dead in his hands. Even God is no exception. What's more, it's just a cursed aggregate. Wang Hassan moved. It moved in front of this cursed aggregate. Holding a big sword, the body and the sword exudes a faint blue light. Step by step, moving very slowly, but it gives people an invisible sense of oppression. Passed by, the seemingly slow figure came behind the cursed aggregate in an instant. No one could see how he did it. This speed, the human eye can't detect it at all. The cursed aggregate had begun to dissipate. No one knows what Wang Hassan did. Even now, the onlookers, Luffy and others, only vaguely noticed that the monster had been killed by Wang Hassan, that's all. Looking around, Lu Chen was not surprised by the slightly gaff expressions of Luffy and others, he himself was surprised by Wang Hassan's performance, he smiled slightly. How? Backquote. As terrible, Zoro was succinct. Sanji threw the cigarette butt out of his mouth, frowned and said, this is an existence that is absolutely not to be provoked. 99. This moment, everyone looked at Brook. It's up to Brook to decide what to do. Brook, otherwise don't choose him, it's horrible. Nami looked at Brook with a hint of panic in his eyes. She also understands that if she wants to achieve this level, she cannot do it in a short time. Also, Brook is his own person and shouldn't be afraid. But, Wang Hassan's aura is too strong, and his power is too pervert. Such an assassin who can completely hide himself from the world stays by his side, no one will be comfortable. Terrible, unrivaled assassin. Brook also gave his own evaluation. That terrifying aggregate of curses didn't even discover Wang Hassan, let alone a counterattack, it probably didn't even know the fact that it was dead. Yeah, Lu Chen nodded. Good Zhao, although you are still alive, because of lack of muscles and nerves, if you practice the kung fu to face the enemy, you will inevitably get twice the result with half the effort. The way of the strong. Brook did not give the answer immediately, but fell into contemplation, 3 people and 3 powers, and couldn't choose at all for a while. Don't be too anxious to make a decision. I have a 4th choice here, you can take a look first. The performance field has changed again. It is still the indescribable cursed aggregate, and the other side is a different person. A skeleton on a motorcycle surrounded by fire. Enter Ghost Rider. Chapter 134 The Messenger from Hell. The Knight of Evil who travels between the world and hell. Ghost Rider. This name, coupled with the figure in the arena that looked a little unruly. There was a hint of soothing emotion in the eyes of the others on the boat. The Wang Hassan just now was really too depressed. Even if they understood that this was just Lu Chen's fantasy, and that Wang Hassan would never find them, they couldn't help but be afraid. That feeling of being killed just by looking at it is too terrifying. Lu Chen began to introduce Ghost Rider. This is the spirit of vengeance created by God, although it is called the spirit of vengeance, but it has the title of the judge of evil. Ghost Rider can control all flammable matter and hellfire enough to burn the soul. His pair of eyes of judgment can make people perceive their own evil, and according to the size of the evil, give them pain and even death. Listen to Lu Chen's introduction. Nami looked at Sanji thoughtfully. In this case, Brook will keep staring at Sanji after he learns it. Will he feel pain for his lunatic appearance? Probably not. Zoro directly denied Nami's judgment. Let's not say that Brook also has similar hobbies, and Sanji himself alone, he does not think his idiots are sins, and naturally he will not be judged by the eye. Trial. Green algae head, what are you? Sanji angrily asks Zoro for a duel. Zoro is naturally not afraid. The two ran to 037 and fought. Chen didn't make any statement about this. Zoro and Sanji are a pair of happy friends. Even if there is an accidental addition of himself, nothing will change. Looking at the Ghost Rider in the field, he continued, this is a flame messenger from hell. 99. This is the Knight of Evil who can travel between the world and hell. He has the fire of hell that can burn everything. He has an absolutely undead body. An indestructible chain will arrest and destroy all evil in the world. As a Knight of Evil embodied by God, he himself understands that evil in the world also possesses the ability to destroy all evil. Listen to Chen's story. Nami, Bing and others looked at the Ghost Knight in the arena with a thoughtful look. Especially Chopper, his eyes lit up when he heard Chen's words. Where is the embodiment of evil? This is obviously the Knight of Justice, the nemesis of evil in the world. Crack. A snap of fingers. Now you can watch him perform. Follow Chen's words. The two facing each other in the arena moved. What is this? ACBD, has the curse of hell creeped out? The Ghost Rider looked at the cursed aggregate in front of him, and the hellfire burning on his body trembled. Roar. It was completely different from when he faced King Hassan. The cursed aggregate discovered Ghost Rider right away. However, it is different from facing the Bone King and Hueco Mundo before. At this time, it actually seemed a little scared. That's right, just fear. The existence of this cursed aggregate, which had no reason and consciousness, actually produced fear at this time. Quite impatient and directly launched the attack. Countless black and purple tentacles flew out of its body. Impatiently hit the direction of the Ghost Rider. These tentacles are thick and powerful. Just one, it has a length of several hundred meters and a thickness of more than 10 meters. There are also faint whispers of evil spirits on it. One after another pale souls shuttled back and forth on the tentacles. Interesting. Look at the approaching tentacles. The Ghost Rider did not panic at all, but instead showed excitement on his face. In an instant, countless chains flew out from behind and went straight to the direction of the tentacles. This seemingly weak, tiny chain that is completely incomparable to the tentacles, the moment it touched the tentacles, the flames on it actually burned the tentacles directly. Ah, it's afraid. It's panicking. To this end, the cursed aggregate shouted anthropomorphically. That hellfire that burns everything is itself the nemesis of all malice. It can be said that it is completely unbearable. As this unbearable? Seeing the cursed aggregate like this, Ghost Rider laughed heartily. Turn the throttle. The motorcycle under the crotch moved directly. The fire of hell that was originally surrounding him instantly ignited the entire motorcycle. All the places where motorcycles have traveled have left hell fires that can't be extinguished for a long time. Or as long as Ghost Rider leaves it alone, it can't go out at all. I haven't met such a happy prey for a long time, don't let me down. Ghost Rider controls the motorcycle. The whole person seemed a little crazy. He didn't have any psychological burden at all because of the fear of the other party, on the contrary, he was happy and excited. This. Ghost Rider. In the audience, looking at the movements of Ghost Rider, everyone was a little surprised. Who is the villain and who is the righteous? Why do you feel that the cursed aggregate is a little pitiful at this time? Chen said. This is the characteristics of Ghost Rider, ultimate's madness, and the perfect desire to perform. Chen was also a little enthusiastic about Ghost Rider's performance. Gorgeous, bloody, crazy. Everything goes to ultimate. This is Ghost Rider. As for Ghost Rider's performance against the cursed aggregate more or less beyond his expectations. Chen understood that the Ghost Rider had restraint against this cursed aggregate, but he didn't expect the restraint to be so outrageous. Almost to the point of complete suppression. So strong, so handsome. Luffy on the other side has gold stars in his eyes. Knight, motorcycle rider. He has completely tapped into the depths of his hobbies. The same goes for Chopper. Brook even directly expressed his own opinion. This, I like it. Nice. You love it. Look at Brook's appearance. Chen nodded. The reason why Ghost Rider was chosen for you is because he has a certain degree of fit with your identity as a musician. Acting is also what you like, isn't it? Listening to Chen's words, Brook's eyes filled with tears. The ghost knows how he did it with a skeleton. Lie down directly at Chen's feet and hug Chen's feet. Confidant. 35. If I could add motorcycle performance to my music, the expressiveness must be very exaggerated. 99. Chen imagined the figure of Brook riding a motorcycle. In particular, the stage of the King of Souls also shines. It does make some sense to say so. The expression did not change. After all, this kind of thing cannot be forced. The most important thing is to see Brook's own wishes. Let's finish reading. Chapter 135 Burning the Flames of Heaven and Earth. Hellfire. Yeah, in the arena, Ghost Rider has more fun. The entire arena is already covered with his wheels. Nature is also full of hellfire. As for the cursed aggregate, it even hid in a corner and shivered. Facing the Ghost Rider, let alone fighting back, his body has shrunk a lot for a sense of security. Fear, hesitation, this is the portrayal of it now. This existence is definitely enough to cause a world-class disaster to the outside world, and it even seems a little pitiful at this time. If the Bone King and the Void King were crushed, King Hassan didn't even make him feel death. Then after it faces Ghost Rider, it's a joke. Completely toyed with. Little darling, what's the matter with you? Come out and play. Ah. Wild, unbridled, facing this world-class catastrophe, Ghost Rider even had the heart to play with him. A chain is transformed into a chain in his hand, directly tossed to the Cursed Collective. The cursed aggregate looked at the chains coming towards him, and his entire body trembled. The body burst out with infinite power. Purple and black gas instantly spread throughout the arena. But, under the fire of hell, these gases are quickly purged until they disappear. One after another is extremely spectacular, and the tentacles hundreds of meters long attacked in the direction of the evil knight instantly. But, as soon as they touched the chains, they were melted by the blazing hellfire above. There was no room for resistance at all. Looking at the collection of curses in front of him, the Ghost Rider's face showed a lack of interest. He's a little tired of playing. Boring. You can die. Talking room. The chain stretches endlessly, as if locking the Cursed Collective, directly trapping it inside. Accompanied by the raging fire of hell, the Cursed Collective let out a painful wailing sound. Woman, child, elder, cries for help, swearing. Beg for mercy. The Cursed Collective uses all possible methods to get rid of this chain and to live. However, Ghost Rider has neither sorrow nor joy. Looking at the cursed aggregate that has gradually shrunk due to the burning of the fire of hell, there is even a faint expression of admiration. It is the fire of vengeance created by God, the Knight of Vengeance. Born to destroy the evil in the world. How could it be possible to give up because of the begging of the Cursed Collective? Gradually, the sound disappears. The indescribable figure also completely disappeared. Ghost Rider looked at the masterpiece in front of him with satisfaction. It is not that there is no way to instantly destroy this cursed aggregate. Only, what's the fun in doing that? After the cursed aggregate was eliminated, everything in the arena stopped again as if time and space had been frozen. Even the burning hellfire no longer showed any signs of fluttering at this moment. Brook looked at the Ghost Rider riding a motorcycle, with a look of anticipation in his eyes. What a mighty force, what a handsome man. If I have to choose, I'm more optimistic about Ainz Ooal Gong. After the 4 presentations were completed, Robin expressed his thoughts. Compared to the violence of the King of the Void, the assassination of King Hassan and the insolence of the Ghost Rider, she prefers the calmness of the Bone King. Moreover, she can keenly perceive that the Bone King is definitely a person with a story. If Brook chooses the Bone King, she can use this to study the story behind the Bone King. Brook, choose Ghost Rider, it's so handsome. Luffy, Chopper, and Usopp all stared at Brook. Their movements and expressions were the same, and they even spoke at the same time. It's hard to imagine how they reached such a level of tacit understanding. If it were me, I would prefer the king of Hueco Mundo. Zoro and Sanji came back from a fight with a bruised face. The two still have no winner. Almost all crew members gave comments and thoughts at this time. However, this is not important. What matters is Brook's own choice. Chen turned his head to look at Brook. Other people's advice is someone else's advice after all. What are your thoughts? Hearing Chen's question, Brook was also lost in thought. He is also thinking about this. If you look at it purely in terms of strength, there is no way to tell who wins and who loses in these 4 presentations. But if the focus is on the direction, he prefers Ghost Rider. Perhaps, Wang Hassan's strength and fighting style suit him better, but that style is not what he wants. The absolute power of the Bone King and the Void King is also what the people on board need, but he doesn't think that will bring him happiness. 0. Ask for flowers. Ghost Rider is his final choice and the direction he most yearns for. How can you not be crazy when you play music? Thinking of this, Brook smiled slightly. I already have a plan. Hearing Brook say this, everyone came close. Looking at Brook expectantly, looking forward to his choice. Brook looked at Chen expectantly. I want the power of Ghost Rider, okay. Of course, but his power is the power of the whole body. If you want to achieve this level, you still need to work hard. Saying that, Chen rubbed the 3 fingers of his right hand. Pop. A snap of fingers. The entire arena space was shattered, and the group returned to the ship again. 0. They have returned to the top of the Sunshine Miles. System, customize, train Brook, and gain the power of Hellfire. Ghost Rider's powers are all about hell. Hellfire, Eye of Judgment, chains, immortality. Everything is about hell. It is unrealistic to give Brook the power of Ghost Rider in one breath, and it is almost impossible based on past experience. Even if Brook has the time, the people on the boat couldn't have waited too long for him. In this way, getting Hellfire first is obviously the best choice. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Brook. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. To obtain the power of Hellfire. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Have some insight into Wangquan, and have a preliminary understanding of the definition of Wangquan. Close black lens bracket. Have a feeling about Wangquan. Is it a plan of the intuition department again? Chen shook his head with a slight headache. But this is also a good training direction. Brook's fruit is the yellow spring fruit. While obtaining the power of the Ghost Rider, you can also develop the yellow spring fruit. It can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Are you back again? Luffy's voice sounded. He looked at the slightly unfamiliar surroundings around him. They also don't know how long Thousand Sunny has gone and how far they have gone. Chen, what's my training plan? Chapter 136 Sabaody Archipelago, Let All Supernovas Fear. Looking at Brook's expectant eyes, Although Lu Chen said that he still has no opinion on the training method of this kind of perception system. But because there are enough times, it has been able to deal with it proficiently. I understand Wangquan, and I have a preliminary understanding of the definition of Wangquan. Perception of Wangquan, a preliminary understanding of the definition of Wangquan. Brook repeated Lu Chen's words with a little doubt, but he didn't understand the meaning. Obviously a skeleton face, but he could barely notice the frown on his brows. Ha ha ha, is this the way of training again? Chopper laughed at this moment. For this training method, he now has more say than Lu Chen. Because he has already realized that he has succeeded once. In fact, you don't need to think too much, you just need to put what you think into practice. Zoro on the side listened to Chopper's words thoughtfully. The hand has already touched the knife on the waist of 053. As for Brook, still a look of despair. What do you mean? 35. For Brook's inquiry, Lu Chen stepped aside. Chopper is very enthusiastic about sharing his experience with Brook, but the difficulty of training in the perception department is that everyone needs to perceive in different directions, and there is no so-called experience to talk about. Chopper is like this, others are even more helpless. A time. The boat was lively again. Sabaody Archipelago. An island made up of the world's largest mangrove, the Alchemy Mangrove. Near Naval Headquarters. At the foot of the Red Line. The intersection of New World and Grand Line. This is a place with countless titles, enough to evoke anyone's imagination. It is also a place that everyone will yearn for. Coming. Luffy and others stood on top of Sabaody Archipelago after a long absence, looking at the surrounding scene. Luffy raised his hands high and roared frantically. The roar. It directly attracted everyone's attention. At this point, Nami was almost dumbfounded. The Straw Hat Pirates are a pirate group with a bounty of more than 1 billion. Here again is the foot of naval headquarters. Luffy is so high profile, isn't he dying? Eyes look around. Sure enough, she found that many people started to whisper. A lot of people even started to come up with reward orders, and those people's eyes were shining brightly, obviously they had already discovered their identities. Luffy. Quiet me. 99. A punch hit Luffy in the head. Nami's fierce appearance is revealed. At the same time, she also thirsts for power more and more. Looking at Lu Chen for help. Lord Lu Chen, the little girl wants to continue to become stronger, can you give me some hints? Is Nami getting stronger? Looking at that, Lu Chen nodded without much thought. Although LV.3 is already very strong, if it is New World, it is not enough. If you can become IV.4, you can barely obtain the ability to protect yourself. System, customize, train Nami, get shock enable ability LV.4 and coping ability. 9. Soon, the system gave feedback. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Nami. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. To obtain electric shock enabler ability LV.4 and coping ability. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Enter a state of meditation that completely empties the brain for 4 hours and lasts for 600 days. Close black lens bracket. 600 days. Lu Chen thought for a moment. It is also possible. After all, there is a 2-year gap to follow. It is not difficult to upgrade to IV.4, and there is enough time. The way you train requires going into a state of mind-emptying meditation for 4 hours for 600 days. Listening to Lu Chen's words, Nami was a little desperate. Especially when she found out that she didn't pay attention, and the crew members all ran away, she was even more helpless. What should I do now? 600 days, do I still have 600 days to live? Nami wanted to complain, but when she turned around and looked, she found that Lu Chen had also disappeared. At this time, Lu Chen had reached the depths of the Sabaody archipelago. This is the outpost where the first climax erupted. At the same time, it is also an extremely important gathering place for supernovae in the later stage of the whole work. It's also a fun place for Lu Chen. Those supernovas are arrogant one by one, and it will be very interesting if they are pulled into the training dojo. Ding. Detected that the current training plan is completed. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Buggy. Close black lens bracket. Training result. Successful. Close black lens bracket. Ding. Host has acquired a new skill. Torn apart. Close black lens bracket. At this moment, Lu Chen suddenly heard the system prompt tone. This voice made Lu Chen a little confused. Can Buggy be able to divide itself into 1,000 pieces? I checked the training plan with some disbelief. Current training plan. 7. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket training subjects. Monkey D. Luffy, Nico Robin, Tony Chopper, Nami, Usopp, Vinsmoke Sanji, Rorno Azoro. Close black lens bracket. Really, the system is still reliable. Buggy was removed from above. Lu Chen raised his fingers. Under the control of the mind, the fingers have turned into a blood fog. That's how far Buggy can do it now. With a thought in his eyes, Lu Chen was also a little surprised. Amazing. 35. As expected of a man known as the God of Luck, as long as he is willing to do it, he can still do it. 55. Buggy did develop the power of fruit to a certain extent, but that didn't make Lu Chen care. He hasn't achieved fruit awakening, nor can he hockey. At most, this strength is to dominate on the Grand Line, and it is nothing in the New World. Next time we meet, I'll help him train the fruit to awaken. As for Haki's words, if he can learn it, he will learn it, and if he can't learn it, forget it. After all, I can't really train Luffy, a super strong opponent. Silently muttered a word. A person appeared in front of Lu Chen's eyes. With a cigar in his mouth, a stranger is not allowed to enter. Quite a character like the godfather of the Western style. With such an iconic image, how could Lu 1.3 Shen not know? Count yourself, one of the 12 supernovae. The captain of the flame tank pirates, known as Capone, gang, Bege. I didn't expect that the first person I saw was you. 99. Lu Chen is still very fond of Bege, a real man. However, if you have a good feeling, you will have a good feeling, and you should make fun of it. After all, that's what he meant by leaving the main force. Capone Bege called softly. Bege in front of him did not look back. But there was a rain of artillery fire and bullets hitting Lu Chen. In this regard, Lu Chen smiled slightly. Is it going to get off the horse as soon as I meet? Should I say that I am a bully of West Blue? Chapter 137 Lu Chen's Bad Taste, Category. These guns, bullets directly penetrated Lu Chen's body and hit the house behind him. The explosion sounded. The tree house was directly destroyed. Killed. Sabaody Archipelago is at the foot of naval headquarters, and it is also the only way for pirates to enter the New World. It has also become a very chaotic place. Although such a loud noise caused confusion, not many people were affected. Some of them just glanced at the line of defense where Lu Chen and Bege were, and went on to do their own thing. Oh, it's you. Turned his head to look. A look of surprise appeared on Bege's face. Lu Chen, with a bounty of 500 million. Marine Admiral Aokiji is said to have met him in person. The purpose was to pull Lu Chen into Shichibukai, but Lu Chen did not agree. Certainly, this is just a rumor, and no one knows if it is true or not. The only thing that can really be sure is that Aokiji has actually found Lu Chen, but Lu Chen has nothing to do, not even the rumor of being injured. The so-called 12 supernovae. In the eyes of those real high-level executives, it was just Lu Chen playing O2 with 11 children. Because of this, Bege was upset. Very upset. He came from West Blue and pushed all the way to Sabaody. Why should Lu Chen be crushed on the head? Since it's you, then I don't have any psychological burden. Let's talk about it. What did Mr. Lu Chen, the leader of the 12 supernovas, the biggest and most evil pirate red-eyed in this century, come to me? The head of the 12 supernovae. The biggest and most evil pirate of the century. What's up with these titles? Lu Chen is also in a dazed state. In recent days, he has been helping the crew to improve their strength, and he did not pay attention to the outside world at all. Think for a moment. Lu Chen shook his head slightly. So, the media is sometimes really hateful. There is one and only one possibility of this outcome. That's the seagull that damn it. Never mind. Shaking his head slightly. Lu Chen looked at Bege in front of him, and said slightly provocatively, since you also know that I am a trainer, are you interested in being trained by me to become stronger? Trained by Lu Chen. Listening to Lu Chen's words, Bege frowned slightly. A look of thought appeared on his face. To become stronger, he certainly needs it. He has also somewhat heard of Lu Chen's ability. Hearing what Lu Chen said at this time was also a little moved. But his expression is still cautious. So what is the price? You can't be really kind enough to help an opponent, right? Smart. 35. Lu Chen praised Bege. Of course he really just wanted to help train. After all, by helping others train, Lu Chen can also gain strength. However, if he trains for free like this, it is easy to attract the attention of others. Naturally, you have to find a reason. Looking at Bege, Lu Chen continued and said, I'm testing something recently and I need help from a strong person. This is the reason for Lu Chen. At the same time, it is also his bad taste. Lu Chen wanted to see how these supernovas, as well as Marine from New World, were embarrassed when the pirates entered the training dojo. As long as you help me test the training dojo I just built recently, I will help you train to become stronger. Is this a good business? Rest assured, there is absolutely no danger to life. 35. When it was over, Lu Chen pondered for a while and added, maybe there will be some psychological damage, but for a tough and strong person like you, it shouldn't be a problem. 55. It's free of flattery. Bege looked at Lu Chen and always felt that something was wrong. But, what Lu Chen said was the truth. It was a bit difficult to choose for a while. Since you're not interested, then I'll go first. Lu Chen looked at Bege with a hesitant face and didn't force it, he turned around and was about to leave. Anyway, there are a lot of strong people who came to this Sabaody archipelago this time. After all, there are people who are willing to accept my test. 5. Wait a minute. Seeing that Lu Chen was about to leave, Bege quickly stopped Lu Chen. Lu Chen's trainer status is an ability that everyone else is envious of. At this time, the opportunity to let him help train himself is in front of him, even if it is a trap. He has to step in too. He is more or less aware of the intensity of New World. If it's just my current self, there's absolutely no way I can get on the Grand Line as unimpeded. Getting stronger is the only option. Lu Chen stopped and looked back at Bege. What? Are you going to agree? You guy. Bege looked slightly annoyed at Lu Chen's confident look. Although he knew that Lu Chen did it on purpose, he was helpless. Okay, tell me where your training dojo is and when it will start, I will participate. Don't be so troublesome. Lu Chen's eyes turned slightly red. Rub the 3 fingers of the right hand. The two have come to an illusion. Lu Chen spread his hands. This is my training dojo. There are 10 difficulty levels in total, and everyone can challenge 3 times a day. I will give you a training method to become stronger according to the difficulty of your challenge. Come on, Godfather Bege. 10 levels of difficulty. Bege didn't choose the first time. Instead, think about it. If you say I've played the 10th difficulty, what can you bring me? The power beyond this world. Chen looked at Bege and said seriously. In fact, it does. Or, if there is someone who can win the 10th difficulty. Not to mention gaining power beyond the entire world of One Piece, even Chen, who has cheat, has to dodge 053. However, the difficulty is very high. I still recommend that you start from the low level slowly. 9. Ha ha. Bege looked at Chen and sneered. Chen said so seriously, of course he could guess the difficulty. But, even so, he did not intend to challenge according to Chen's ideas. A little thought. The power beyond the whole world is fascinating, but I don't believe that you have this power and will not arrange training for your crew. I choose the 8th difficulty. Are you going to choose the 8th difficulty? Looking at Bege, Chen smiled. The 8th difficulty is the Emperor's deputy level, and Bege's level can only reach the 5th difficulty at most. 3 levels of challenge. It seems very interesting. Very well, then the challenge begins. Talking room. Chen's eyes flashed blood red. The familiar arena reappeared. Bege has reached the arena. I looked around. His eyes were full of doubts. What about my opponent? Don't rush. Chen clapped his hands while speaking. A figure emerged from the shadows. This person is Charlotte Katakuri of the Big Mom Pirates. Chapter 138 vs Katakuri, Capone Bege's beaten journey. What? As a mature and sophisticated middle-aged man, how could Bege not know Katakuri? This is one of the 4 emperors, a core member of the family on the Big Mom Pirates. How could you find Katakuri? Adjusted by Chen. At this time, Bege didn't know anything other than what he could see in the arena, and naturally he couldn't see Chen. Looking at Bege, who was a little flustered in the arena, Chen comforted. No, this is just a phantom, and there is no real life and death in this training dojo. Whether it's your death or the death of this Katakuri phantom is fake, there is too much burden in my heart. It's easy to say. Bege gradually calmed down, but the feeling of death is still there, right? Smart. Chen deliberately didn't say anything about this, but Bege guessed it, but it didn't matter. Didn't I say before that there would be a little psychological burden? How? Continue, or quit, or you can quit now and change the difficulty. Boy, is death just a little psychological burden? Bege took a deep breath of the cigar. A serious expression appeared on his face. He was thinking about how to deal with the current situation. Fight. Gritting his teeth, Bege's expression became solemn. It won't really die anyway. If you want to gallop in the new world, it's not realistic to avoid people at the deputy level. It's actually a good testing ground here. You can continue. Very good. Chen in the audience applauded Bege. If that's the case, then let's begin. 5. As Chen started, red light flashed in his eyes. The Katakuri, who was standing still, slowly opened his eyes. Looking at Bege in front of him, he said slowly, "My enemy, is that you?" Talking room. Katakuri's hands turned into rice cakes. Go straight to Bege. It also has armament hockey wrapped around it. That look, as if to kill Bege directly. Good guy, is this the strength of the Emperor's deputy level? Seeing the menacing rice cake arms, Bege's face was also solemn. The entire body instantly became larger. A castle was erected directly on the spot. On the castle, countless figures are moving. Countless gun barrels, the barrels are aimed at the rice cake arm. Fire. I don't know where the sound came from. Quickly. The sound of guns had already sounded. Countless artillery fires and bullets came from Bege's castle, and all the firepower covered Katakuri's rice cake arm. But something surprising happened to Bege. These bullets and artillery fire simply couldn't stop Katakuri's rice cake arm. Katakuri's rice cake arm penetrated directly through the artillery fire and bullets, and penetrated Bege's body very easily. In just one move, Bege was dead. Next second, he came out of the arena and stood beside Chen covered in sweat. Death did not come to Bege. But the feeling of death is real. Bege said with lingering fear. Katakuri, such a terrible person. 35. Looking at Bege, Chen showed a hearty smile. So, shall I let you test from the beginning? This feeling is really good. You guy. Bege's teeth tickled with hatred, but there was nothing he could do. Taking a few deep breaths, he managed to regain his senses. The whole person gradually relaxed. Can I ask what is the highest difficulty I can challenge? 35. This is not okay. Chen decisively refused. If so, what else is there to look at? No matter if it is the annoyance when challenging the low level, or the spike when challenging the high level. But it's all Chen's fun. Looking at Bege, Chen spoke again. This is also the rules of the game. What level are you going to challenge next? Bege was also undecided at this time. The 8th difficulty is obviously too different, so that he has no way to judge what level of person he is. If the difficulty is not enough, the difficulty of the 7th should not be enough. 99. A time. Bege started thinking about other things. As a strong man, he didn't start the challenge from a low level like Chen said. Although it is safe, it will not really give birth to a strong person. What he has to do is to challenge his own limits. If the difficulty is 6, I don't know if it will work. Look at Bege's thoughtful expression. Lu Chen also began to think about how to formulate training for Bege. He and the rest of the non-Straw Hat Pirates weren't the kind of people Lu Chen wanted to teach. That being the case, then it is natural to focus on your own strength, rather than considering the degree of adaptation of Bege. Forget it, I'll still challenge difficulty 5. Just when Lu Chen was thinking about his current flaws, Bege has already given the answer. This answer surprised Lu Chen a little. Difficulty 8 actually didn't give Bege much thinking time and reference value. And Bege has since found the difficulty that suits him best. Although there is a certain degree of luck in it. But how strong Bege's thinking is can be seen from it. Lu Chen looked at Bege with a hint of riddler. Are you sure? Sure. It is good. Lu Chen nodded slightly. In the next second, difficulty 5 is turned on. Bege was teleported into the arena again. This time, his opponent is fellow Basil Hawkins. Seeing his own enemy, a smile appeared on Bege's face. It turned out to be you. From this point of view, the strength of our supernovas should all hover around difficulty 5. If that's the case, aren't we supernovas as bad as we imagined? 99. While talking, Bege turns his body into a castle while he's at it. This time, he did not directly transform into a castle of Lihao like he did when facing Katakuri, but only partially transformed. My enemy, is that you? The same words as when Kakutari first appeared. Obviously, these phantoms were designed by Lu Chen as products that only knew about combat. Come on, Magician of North Blue, I'd like to see what you can do. The same as a supernova. They are naturally familiar with each other. However, it is obviously impossible to fight. There is also an urgent need for each other. They don't want the Marines and the pirates to take advantage of the fight. The enemy should be killed. Hawkins' entire body gradually withered. The whole person seems to be transformed into a scarecrow. Facing the half-castle Bege without any hesitation, just rushed over. Chapter 139 Bege vs Hawkins, The Horror of Supernova. Please customize, please complete. In the audience, Lu Chen looked at Bege with a thoughtful expression on his face. It's a good choice to make a partial castle. Although castleization can improve defense, it can also make it easier for people in the castle to choose how to attack. However, castleization also has a disadvantage. That would directly make him unable to move, or move slowly and rigidly. In this case, in the master duel, there is only the possibility of being beaten. The battle between Bege and Katakuri just now is an example. It's true that Katakuri and the current Bege are very different in strength, but it's not that the strength gap between Bege and Katakuri is such that Katakuri can really kill Bege with a single blow, but Bege himself incarnated into a living target. Katakuri only needs to find Bege's famous door and kill him. In saying that, I seem to know how to set up training for him. Inside the arena, at this point Bege and Hawkins have been fighting together. Although they are all supernovas, whether it is Bege or Hawkins, they have come to today with the power of fruit. The battle between the two is not fierce, and there is nothing outstanding. 053. Even, in the eyes of today's Lu Chen, it's a bit ridiculous, clumsy, a bit cute. If you have to say it, Hawkins is at a disadvantage. Lu Chen clearly noticed the difference in Hawkins. His injuries were not erased. This also means that the power of Hawkins' fruit copied by Lu Chen is less able to transfer damage. In battle with the same level, without such an important fruit ability, how could it be Bege's opponent? As predicted, the two sides only fought for a while, and Hawkins gradually fell into the disadvantage. The castleization of Bege is comparable to an armed defense. Hawkins now has no effective means of attack to break his defense. With the beginning of Bege's temptation and timid end. Gradually, Hawkins' phantom has been suppressed by Bege. When I was suppressed, the people in the castle stopped using artillery fire all the time and attacked Hawkins with firearms. Crack, click, 99. Boom. It ended with a roar and explosion. Bege appeared beside Lu Chen with a cigar. Although it was said to deal with a Hawkins who had lost a part of the power of the fruit, but after all, it was also a supernova, and it was an existence of the same level as Bege. Bege still hangs. However, the victory was indeed achieved. Do not be proud. 35. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced at Bege, and Lu Chen spoke indifferently. This time it's just your random opponent who's luckier. Hawkins' ability cannot be fully released in the Phantom. Bege was noncommittal about Lu Chen's words. I don't need you to remind me of this. 35. Although it is impossible for Bege to know as much as Lu Chen, he also understands that Hawkins is never famous for fighting people head-on. I won't try it for the third time. I can barely fight Hawkins who lacks part of the power of fruit. The enemy on the 6th difficulty is definitely not something I can handle. Now is the time for you to fulfill your promise. I think I want what you call training. Smart people. Lu Chen gave Bege a thumbs up. This guy has a very good mind and a full self-awareness of himself. Although it is a bit rude to face myself, it is understandable. After all, it is driving on the sea, and even in the Grand Line, it is unobstructed. Although it is said that in the world of One Piece, the Masters are all in the New World. But, the Masters are just a handful. The New World is also only a small part of the world. Bege and other supernovas have surpassed 99% of the horrors in this world. If there is no arrogance, it is suspicious. If that's the case, then wait a moment for me. ACBD. Talking. Lu Chen's eyes flashed red. You wait here, I'll be back when I go. 10 doors appeared on the screen. Lu Chen and Bege greeted each other and walked to the 5th door on their own. If he just specifies the training method, he only needs to move his mind and ask the system. However, in the face of outsiders, there is still a sense of mystery. Moreover, the more complex and mysterious it is, the more Bege and the others believe. System, customize, train Capone Bege, get the highest level of Marine 6 styles. This is what Lu Chen came up with for Bege. It is also the strength that Lu Chen needs. The highest level of Marine 6 styles, that's what Admiral Marine and Garp still use. That is a trick that can compete with the 4 emperors. The use of this trick will make Bege less cumbersome, and Lu Chen will be able to obtain more flexible and changeable tricks. It can be said to be a win-win. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Capone Bege. Close black lens bracket. Training target. The highest level Marine 6 styles. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Beat yourself for 1 hour every day, run at maximum speed for 1 hour for 600 days. Close black lens bracket. Hi. Listening to the training plan, Lu Chen took a deep breath. This training is a bit too pervert. If you hammer yourself for an hour, it's fine, but if you jog or run for an hour, it's actually not difficult for anyone. But this is running at maximum speed for an hour, and it's all about fighting for your life. Moreover, this run will take nearly 2 years. Smile. Lu Chen didn't care either. If you endure hardship, you will be a superior person. If you are exhausted, you will be able to at least reach the 6th difficulty level or even the 7th difficulty level. I muttered to myself. Lu Chen walked out slowly. Looking at Bege, who was trying to hide his expectant eyes, he said slowly, your training goal is to beat yourself for 1 hour a day, and run at maximum speed for 1 hour for 600 days. What? Bege looked puzzled. What's the use of such training? No matter how you look at it, it's just ordinary physical training. Lu Chen shook his head slightly. He didn't have to, and wasn't interested in telling Bege what he could gain from training. Crack. 35. A snap of fingers. The two have returned to the place where they met. The figure flickered. Lu Chen had disappeared in front of Bege. This B**************** D. Looking at the direction in which Lu Chen disappeared, Bege gritted his teeth secretly. There was helplessness in his eyes. What, boss, do you want to try? 35. Listening to the voices of the younger brothers, Bege was noncommittal, of course, otherwise, it's not white hits. Bege has decided to train, while Lu Chen has found another supernova. Trafalgar Law, Chapter 140 Op Fruit, The Secret of Longevity. This is a very important role in the back. At the same time, it is also a character that really makes Lu Chen curious. No, it should be said to be the fruit of curiosity. Op fruit can truly make a person live forever. This fruit ability is not just a legend like the Millennium Dragon, it is a confirmed statement. It is said that the 5 elders were operated on by op fruit and became immortals. I don't know how many years they have survived. At this time, Luo was hanging out in the Sabaody land, the archipelago. It's you. Lu Chen appeared silently. However, he did not hide his thoughts. It was intentional to walk to the line of sight that Luo could find. Red-eyed Lu Chen, the trainer on the Straw Hat Pirates, known as the leader of the Era of Sin, the leader of the supernova. What happened? Is my title more than when I met Bege? Hearing Luo's voice, Lu Chen was also a little surprised. If someone like Lu Chen's family took the initiative to find me, they wouldn't just come to see me, right? Certainly. Lu Chen nodded decisively. For him. Luo is also a person who can be a friend. Seeing Luo not holding the knife, as if to activate his abilities at any time, Lu Chen thought for a moment. Finally decided to cut to the chase. Since you all know that I am a trainer, then I will cut to the chase. Recently, I have developed a training dojo that needs to be tested by the strong. As long as you come to test, I will arrange training for you, so that you can deepen the power of the master fruit. How about it? Look at Lu Chen. Luo did not speak for the first time. Lu Chen's statement is too general, the power of the deeper master fruit, who knows what this depth is. For this reason, it is too risky to go to a place prepared by the person I just met today. Lu Chen is in charge. Do you think your proposal is very tempting? Isn't it tempting? Lu Chen was not surprised. Because Lu Chen didn't know what the training result of deepening control over the power of fruit would bring Luo. He just said it casually. However, he did not think that Luo Neng refused his proposal. After all, he knew everything about Luo. It's a bit general, but I actually don't know how far you can reach. 99. Lu Chen took the step back and looked helpless. Immediately, the conversation changed, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. However, it should at least allow you to reach the level that you can handle Doflamingo. If you can win or not, I don't know. UB******************* D. Luo was obviously anxious when he heard Lu Chen's words. He rushed forward and grabbed Lu Chen's collar. Do you know something? Lu Chen didn't resist, and looked at Luo innocently, as if he didn't know why Luo was so angry. What do you know? See Lu Chen's expression. Luo didn't know if Lu Chen was pretending, or he really didn't know. However, if he doesn't let go at this time, it's his fault. Take a few deep breaths. Luo let go. Looking at Lu Chen in front of him, the mood of the original game Sabaody Archipelago was completely destroyed. I'm just going to participate. But I want to know that what you say is true. Of course it is. 35. Lu Chen nodded and said calmly, the growth of the Straw Hat Pirates is the best reflection of my trainer status. Looking at Lu Chen's expression, Luo took a deep breath. There's really no way to deny this. Gradually, Luo also believed in Lu Chen. However, the broken mood is still impossible to get back. The tone didn't improve much either. Speak, where are you going? No need to move the place. Lu Chen smiled slightly. With a flash of red light in his eyes, he took Luo to the place he had prepared for Bege before. It's the same as Bege's statement, directly talking about the level and difficulty. I will make a training plan for you according to the difficulty of your successful challenge. The higher the difficulty, the greater the training reward you will get after success. Luo didn't talk nonsense, looking at Lu Chen's eyes with murderous intent. If you want to kill Doflamingo, what difficulty do you need to challenge? 99. Looking at Luo, who was a little impatient in front of him, Lu Chen shook his head slightly. You need to consider this yourself. The rules of the game are that reminders are not allowed, and you can only master yourself. Luo was slightly dissatisfied. But, isn't this place created by you? Lu Chen is still in that kind of unhurried tone. Of course, so it's me who sets the rules and the referee, so I should abide by the rules. Okay, Captain Luo, choose your difficulty. Remember, there are only 3 choices, and if the challenge fails, you can choose again. 0. Ask for flowers. Luo looked at Lu Chen's smiling expression and knew that he couldn't get too many words out of Lu Chen's mouth. Then he set his eyes on the door representing the 10 difficulty levels. Difficulty increases gradually from small to large numbers. If it is converted into the power level of this world. For a time, countless ideas appeared in Luo's mind. Begin to seriously analyze this difficulty. I understand. Take a deep breath. Luo already had a prediction in mind. Reach out to the door on difficulty 6. I choose difficulty 6. 35. Oh, 35. A hint of surprise appeared in Lu Chen's eyes. He kept looking at Luo's expression. He knew very well that Luo's choice was well thought out. And, it was only the first choice, and it was actually very close to his original 5th difficulty level. If he tried his best to meet someone who would be restrained by him, it is not entirely impossible for Luo to win on the 6th difficulty. Should I say it's you? Hearing Lu Chen's statement, Luo's eyes showed some doubts. Is it the right choice? Can you tell me why you chose difficulty 6? Definitely the right choice. Hear this question from Lu Chen. Luo's eyes lit up. Everyone exudes a happy atmosphere. Looking at Lu Chen, there was a hint of provocation in his eyes. Guess. It seems, Luo still resents the fact that he just mentioned Doflamingo. Lu Chen thought so in his heart. However, you don't need to be too concerned. Luo just chose difficulty 6, which is likely to win. And that's not very likely. Difficulty 6 can be at least Marine Rear Admiral, and the existence of Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral level. It's not easy to beat them. All right. Lu Chen nodded. Rub the 3 fingers of the right hand. Crack. 99. A snap of fingers. The surrounding scene changed again. Luo has come to the arena. Opposite him is Thor. Enel. Whoops. Lu Chen looked at both sides of the duel. It's getting a little interesting. Chong.